Hey guys, welcome to part 7 of What If Naruto Was Neglected Heir of Uzumaki clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe as it inspires me to make more such videos. So let's get started. Chapter 19. There were signs that a major battle had occurred. What Naruto was staring at was a ground that had witnessed a war. In his many battles, he had never left the field looking so beat up, slightly reshaped because of explosions that had taken place. He did do fireworks on occasions, but nothing quite like this. Our enemies are still here, Minato said, looking ahead at a group of 4 S-ranked shinobi all looking beat up. The remnants of their cloaks were identification to tell them that it was indeed members of the Akatsuki. A messenger bird had arrived in his office carrying a message that Fugaku was in danger. He had quickly gathered Naruto and Itachi before flashing into this place. He had not thought that he would find the battle over already and Fugaku lying down in a puddle of blood. It was a sneak attack on Konoha that would have severe consequences. They had no choice now but to mark the Akatsuki as an enemy of Konoha and they had to be brought to justice. This was an act that would not go unpunished, and whoever paid them to do it would pay dearly. It was enough. He had allowed attacks to come and go without hardening his heart to take the necessary actions. But now he would not let this go. When would it end? If he continued to allow this injustice to carry on, he would be failing his village. The village he had sworn to protect when he took the oath in the office. Itachi knelt down beside his father, an expressionless mask on his face. He could not show emotions at a time like this. Besides, judging from the battleground, he was sure that he had fought bravely. The signs had been there, and perhaps that made it a lot easier to handle. Yet, there was something that weighed on him a bit heavily. It was an emotion that he could not grasp fully, but he did get the wind of it. This was a man who had been a pillar in his life, a man who had taught him so many things in life, and had given his all in training him. He was lying down, breathless and lifeless. Uchiha Fugaku was no more. His father was no more. The man who had led the Uchiha through a difficult time was no more. Their clan was at a good position because his father had fought the good fight. They may have had their disagreements there and there, but they had a strong bond. There are 4 S-rank criminals here, it would be advantageous if we all fought, Minato said in a serious tone. He didn't underestimate Naruto and Itachi's strength, but these were S-rank criminals. They didn't even know anything about them so they had to be careful. It had been long since he battled anyway. I think Naruto and I can handle this, Itachi said, as he stood up. Minato looked at his son. He was still handicapped because he could not use his left hand. Tsunade had yet to do anything and against everything the redhead was someone who would not willingly choose to fight, not against these odds. Minato didn't even need to think that Itachi was allowing his emotions to get the best of him. The Uchiha was level-headed and too rational to allow his emotions to drive him towards a reckless decision. It was the reason he waited patiently to hear Naruto's response. If the redhead said it was fine, then Minato would not get in their way. This is risky, Naruto said in a flat tone. Honestly, I would not wish to engage this battle, but since you are making this request, I will indulge it. Besides, this serious crime must be punished with a brutal death. I am not sure we can deliver it, but we will try. Are you sure, Naruto? For a moment, Naruto took time to think. Perhaps this is the first time in my life I am entering a battle when I am not sure about anything, but this has to be done. You can return to Konoha, the redhead Uzumaki said, his eyes partially opened. If there is anything summon me, I will be here in an instant, Minato said firmly as he knelt down. The Yondaime Hokage grabbed Fugaku and disappeared in a flash of yellow. You are taking a risk, Itachi said to Naruto. You have never been the one to take risks for anyone. Not when it puts your life on the line. If we are to be honest, if we engage now, we may not come out in one piece. That is a fight you've never fought in your life. Are you really willing to risk it all? Naruto looked up into the sky. Fugaku gave me a lot. He was more like a father to me when I was younger. We may not have been that close now, but the contribution he made to my life was massive. I also value our friendship. If I asked you to dive into hell with me, you would do the same. I have my way of life, but sometimes we must throw away our selfishness for others. Despite everything, Itachi managed to smile. I am thankful, he said. Now I understand why your father will stand for you without a shed of doubt. Despite everything, Minato has never doubted Naruto. People could say everything about the redhead, but the Yondaime has always defended his son. He has always shown utmost trust in him. Itachi understood it. Even though Naruto had some questionable tendencies, at the end of the day he would do the right thing. You sound as if you have discovered some secret, Naruto responded. Itachi shook his head. It is no secret. You truly are a flawed person, but you have never denied that. I guess this is what sets you apart. The Uchiha focused on their enemies. I'm not sure myself how we are going to do this, but I feel that we must show Konoha's strength if we are going to stop more attacks. Naruto nodded. This is becoming troublesome. Well, he wasn't going to complain, unless it truly stopped him from doing some things. The war could come. He was ready for it. I must be losing my mind, doing something like this, the redhead said with a shake of his head. Oh well, let us. I wouldn't advise it, Uchiha suddenly said as she appeared behind the two. You'll die if you go against them. Naruto didn't turn to face the blonde Jinchuriki, but his eyes narrowed ever so dangerously as he responded. What makes you say that? He asked. If she was here, she had been watching the battle. He could question her motives for having been in this place, but not at this time. The enemy before them held much more importance. It was a serious matter when someone was telling him that he could not win against an enemy. Two of them. They were the ones who started the fight. No matter how hard they were hit, they could not die. Hard to believe, but one of them is immortal. Even if you stab him through his heart, he will just curse and continue, and the other has 5 hearts. He had lost 3, but recovered them by killing other members of the Uchiha, Uchiha explained. It was not within the best interest of Kumagakure for her to share this information, but she just felt she had to. She could not watch the redhead enter a battlefield that could see him killed. She would have to keep this from the wreckage. She couldn't help herself, and she hoped that he would not turn on her. Itachi frowned slightly. It will be difficult, but not impossible, the Uchiha said. Since we have some information, we can work on a strategy on how to beat them. I'm not going to stop you if you want to go even after my warning, but last thing, make sure you don't bleed because if you will fall in the same line as your father. Uchiha said before disappearing. We are letting her leave. It is fine, Naruto said calmly. It is only fair after she told us this very important information. I have my seals, you have your Susanoo. Problem solved. Well, we won't know fully unless we engage them. With the Akatsuki members? Another Uchiha. A young troublesome one, Kakuzu said looking straight at Itachi. He could still go on for another bout, but he really didn't want to engage. Well, it didn't appear as if those two were just going to sit back and allow them to leave the place. Troublesome, but not our job to deal with them. Sakurai said. We can fight them, Deidara had other thoughts. It will be removing enemies of the organization. Before anything could be said, a holographic image of Pine materialized. Your mission has been completed. There is no need to engage them any further, the man said. Both are dangerous, it will be best not to underestimate them. Besides, the Uzumaki is the only direction to the Kyuubi. For now, retreat and await further orders. The man disappeared. He didn't have to wait to hear their arguments. His word was enough and they would follow it, whether they liked it or not. Deidara provide cover for us, Kakuzu said taking charge of the situation. Back with Naruto and Itachi. They appear ready to make a move, Itachi said with his Sharingan activated. Deidara jumped onto a large white bird before it blasted off towards them just above the ground. Its movements caused debris to pick up behind, obstructing the two of the view of the other 3 behind the large bird. Both did realize that it was the intention and jumped to their right, and left side respectively as the bird neared them. When it neared them, the bird took off into the sky, dripping a couple of small birds in the space between. Katsu. They heard before an explosion tore through between them. The small birds that had dropped between them had turned into a large powerful explosion, but Naruto and Itachi turned on their defenses to shield themselves from the blast. Itachi activated a part of his Susanoo while Naruto created a barrier formed by a seal and his chakra chains. Both defenses were strong enough to shield them from bodily harm despite the explosion tearing through the ground between them, leaving a small crater. When the explosion died down, Itachi looked up into the sky where Deidara was hovering. His Sharingan caught the sight of a couple of more birds falling down the ground. "Don't let your guard down," the Uchiha shouted to Naruto. The moment the words left his mouth, a chain of explosion occurred above them, covering the above with a crimson cloud. It didn't do any harm to them, but by the time the cloud disappeared, Deidara was nowhere to be seen. "I didn't think they'd flee," Naruto said calmly. "Well, their mission was completed. It made no sense for them to fight us, even if they did hold the advantage over us. Should we pursue them? They can't be that far off, and both of us are fast." Itachi shook his head. "No, let them escape. If we go any further, we will be moving towards the Earth border and Iwa shinobi are always patrolling there. If we encounter them, it will no longer be risky, but just plain dangerous for us. For now, let us try to gather the survivors before returning to Konoha." Naruto nodded. "We will investigate this mess and get to the bottom of it. By the time we get to Konoha, we will have already started." With Yujido. "What were you thinking doing something so reckless?" C said to Yujido in a stern tone. "You could have been caught by those two." Yujido afforded herself some nonchalance about the matter. "I knew he would not try that," she said firmly. "Though there was a chance it may go the other way around. Back then, they were focused on the Akatsuki, and I was just a sideshow." She didn't have a feeling that Naruto would attempt something against her. If he had, it would ignite the war. But the redhead had said they would meet again in the battlefield. She was glad that he hadn't tried anything though. They were enemies and yet she had helped them. She could not explain why, but she had done it. She had no regrets about it either. "It was risky move, Yujido," C still looked stern-faced. "I'm glad nothing happened though, but why did you warn them about the Akatsuki? It would not have been a bad thing if one of them got injured. They are our enemies," C Yujido said in a very serious tone. "Can you not tell Reikage-sama about it? I'm begging you. You know, I have been nothing but a faithful kunoichi for Kumagakure. I have served the village with everything I have, even though the villagers and the Reikage himself have not treated me fairly. If this comes out, he will start questioning my loyalties." C didn't need to think about it. The Reikage did care about Yujido, but she was obviously treated much different from B. The brother of the Reikage got to do whatever he liked, but Yujido was always up and down doing missions, sometimes without much rest. She hasn't questioned any orders, but has merely done what is instructed of her. She did have a good relationship with B. Yes, the two cared for each other, but the same could not be said for the Reikage. Uzumaki compound. It was something rare to see Naruto resting his head on the palm of his head, with a contemplative look on his face. The redhead usually went up to this study to work on clan matters, and he never allowed anything to disturb his work. However, here the paperwork was spread across the desk with his eyes focused on something else. Azumi made herself comfortable on the chair in front of the desk, and stared at her clan head for a long minute. His fully opened eyes fell on her. She could not see into them. There was a fog of empties masking everything that lay within. "Something troubling you? It could not be about Fugaku, could it?" Naruto wasn't the type to be saddened about it to the point of it making him think this deep. The redhead had limits to how much he cared about people outside of his family. He definitely could not shed a tear for anyone outside the family, no matter how close they were, and he wouldn't even go as far as to fake them. Perhaps something like that was impossible for him. "I'm just thinking about life," the redhead said in a calm tone. I have killed so many people in my life, so many. Death does not shake me because it has become something normal in my life, yet I am afraid of it knocking at my door. Life is a fragile thing. Today you are alive, tomorrow, you are dead. I have never really bothered to think about the deep things about life. Achieving my dream has always been the focus, but as the days pile up, I keep learning that there is more to life than that. There are real possibilities that I may not even reach that point. Azumi stared into Naruto's eyes, trying to discern the meaning of his words, and just what was happening inside his head. But she could not find anything. As usual, he was impossible to read. The usually hidden eyes didn't show anything. She had always been able to spot something in those eyes, but today they were clouded. The fact that he was saying these kinds of things did not raise the wrong alarms. It was actually a good thing that he was able to consider such things. It just showed that he was alive. Naruto was alive. Her Naruto was actually alive and experienced the same things that everyone experienced. Perhaps his responses would be different, but she was happy to indulge in such a conversation with her clan head. Do you doubt your ability to make things happen? That has never been the case. Naruto was always sure that he would achieve his dreams. He was willing to do all that he could to make things happen for him, even if it meant doing some questionable things. Naruto shook his head once. Not at all. Once you doubt yourself, you doubt your strength, you slowly lose faith in your ability. Doubt is a disease that will give birth to cracks in your faith. I have no doubts, but we must be realistic. Perhaps I have been running away from reality because so far, I have been able to get things go my way. In what part? You're no longer able to manipulate chakra with your left hand. Do you call that as everything going your way? That has been the only disturbance. I have had everything else going smoothly. Perhaps, but the only thing that has gone wrong is serious. It could ruin your dreams. Of course, you seem to fail to grasp the gravity of your condition, but reality is much clearer. I don't understand everything that happens in your head, so I can't say much. Azumi said. Naruto opted to ignore Azumi's statement about his hand. He understood perfectly what it meant. He just wasn't going to obsess over it, because it would not change anything. It would only make him bitter, and he would mostly take some disastrous turns. I wonder what will be the legacy I leave behind if I die now? Naruto asked quietly. I don't exactly have a good reputation, but I am known. Despite everything, it seems that I'm still far behind my father. People are certainly willing to talk and praise Itachi more than they would do for me. Enemies of Konoha will talk about me in their dark little corners, but that is all. I have no desire to be a light to this world, but I just want to be something that will be remembered for both the good and bad. I'm not satisfied with being known to enemies. I want something much more. Maybe I want to live as well. Your parents will be ecstatic when they hear that their son wants to live, Azumi said with a smile. How do you plan on getting around that though? You have caused damage to the hearts of people, some of it might never be forgotten. Naruto shrugged. At least they will have a memory of me, the redhead said. I have positioned all the pieces for the clan to move into a new level. It is just foundations, but there are more troubling times to come ahead. It will only get difficult then. But once we start seeing fruits of your efforts, things will become a lot easier. We won't have to worry about spending money for the orphanage and other charity work we do. Food can come directly from the farm, Izumi said. We have to cut off some people though. The women you brought to the village are all working, some in the clan and some outside, but we still offer them accommodation. There are other grown-ups who are satisfied with receiving the 5-star food we give them as well as the allowance. Yoshino had set this up. Naruto could not understand why the woman went all lengths to promote the clan in such a way. Perhaps it was forced because they wanted to prove to the villagers that they were capable of doing good, and were really a peaceful clan. With Kyuubi associated with them, things hadn't been easy as the villagers had started to look at them with unwanted eyes. This measurement had brought good things, but it came at a great cost to the clan's finances. Some clans did help, there and there, but the Uzumaki carried a heavy burden. "It is strange, isn't it?" Naruto said. "Yoshino was a cruel old woman in the outside, but some of her works leaves so many questions that I wonder if it was all just a mask. In any case, I leave the orphanage to you. You will take cost-cutting measures until there is something we can do." Naruto paused, looking thoughtful. "Have you ever thought of doing missionary work?" "Missionary work? Helping people," Naruto said. "It would be something that will suit the clan's image and gain it much influence around the elemental nations. Most of all, it will look good on me. When the Uzumaki clan become great, Uzumaki Naruto looks great because he is the one leading it. There are a lot of people living miserable lives out there, and I am sure that during and after the war, there will be many more miserable people who will need help. My project isn't meant for profit, but to sustain the clan and its activities." Azumi didn't comment on his thinking. He was thinking of something good, but he wasn't going to be doing the good works because he is a kind person. There was an ulterior motive. The redhead Uzumaki shook her head. Did it matter though? As long as he was able to do something good, there would be no one to complain. It would gain the clan many allies and it would make it great once again. Possibly, the clan could become the most politically powerful clan in the Fire Nation and the surrounding nations, if things were managed to perfection. Azumi could dream about that. Konoha wasn't enough, was it? Not for Naruto. "You have a council meeting soon," Azumi suddenly said, changing the subject. Actually, she had come to inform him of the meeting. Naruto sighed. "I really don't like those meetings," the redhead said. "Council chambers?" Minato looked at the clan heads with a hardened expression on his face. It was one of those moments they did something to fight against what was happening. There was great injustice against Leaf Shinobi and it was time to put on battle gears to fight against it. They could not allow other villagers to just walk over them. Revenge was not the thought, but they could not allow sins to be unpunished. When they did nothing, the others saw it as a sign of weakness. Konoha was not weak, it was powerful. This power was the reason this village has been able to stand as the strongest hidden village even after all the wars and the troubles it has faced. Fugaku had been a friend, an important figure in Konoha. He could not simply allow this to let slide. It was a massive hit on the hidden leaf. One that even Danzo would rightly say they could not allow this action going unpunished and punishing those who had planned this they would. "I have been trying to play peaceful for long enough," Minato said strongly. He was rather grateful that the elders were no longer allowed in these meetings. They would have been saying something like, "We told you long ago to take action." It has certainly gotten worse, but if they had fought earlier, they wouldn't have had a massive chance of winning. This position suited them best because they could win regardless of who the enemy was. But it is apparent that this has been perceived as a weakness, or perhaps naivety on my part by our enemies, Minato continued. He never really used the word enemies, but at this moment, it was suitable. "I have called you here because we need to take a decisive action, knowing that we are going to war soon." There was silence. Most of them have gone through wars. They knew it was no peaceful game. War was a bloody vampire that sucked the life out of people. War was a pain, it was an evil that brought about the worst in people, and often led to some shinobi escaping this life because of what they see in the battlefield. Even some great shinobi retire after a war. Nevertheless, that was not the worst part of a war. The hatred. When the war concludes, people really start counting their losses, and then it is pain, which is followed by hatred. This hatred led to more wars. Humans didn't really go about forgiving the killers of their loved ones, even if it had been a war. "I was thinking that we may be able to avoid it," the Sandaime Hokage said in a tired tone. "Well, we have already started preparations for it." Hayashi nodded. "We just need to work out strategies because no doubt the major threats will be Uegakure and Kumo. The two villages are working together, and we know it. To be able to combat both their military power, we need to act decisively. Not to mention both villages have a combined total of 4 Jinchurikis, while we have none. It can't be that they will attack at the same place at the same time. They can coordinate simultaneous attacks in different locations. We won't be able to combat that soon, said, her eyes going at Naruto for a moment. As usual, the Uzumaki clan head was sitting on his chair looking as if he was in a dream world. It wasn't the expression that said that much, it was unreadable, as always, it was the body language. Soon wondered why the redhead even bothered attending the meetings, because certainly, all these business wasn't something he liked. Then again, nobody actually came here because he enjoyed attending council meetings. Matters that were discussed were just important that all clan heads had to be present. Well, there was no punishment to anyone who doesn't attend the meetings. They all just wanted to be part of the decision-making process and ensure that their clan's interests were pushed up there. I know that the Jinchuriki will provide a major threat to the village if they are to be unleashed. We had counted on the Uzumaki last time out in order to deal with the threat, but we cannot do that anymore. We have to come up with an effective plan on how we are going to deal with it, Minato said in a serious tone. But I believe that we will handle it. It may prove difficult, but if we don't go with the belief, it will be pointless. Chusa nodded in agreement. We have to believe that we can do it, he said. But first we must solve this problem brought to us by the Akatsuki. This attack is serious, and we cannot move forward without looking deep into it, the Sandaime stressed. We'd be making a mistake because we don't know if they will strike again. The others nodded in agreement. Shikaku was the first to voice his thoughts. We know that they are a mercenary group and have worked with both Suna and Iwagakure. We can rule out Suna in the attack. We just have to narrow it down to Iwa and Kumo. The most likely village will be Iwa. I just can't see the Raikage working out something like that. His past actions have been both bold and daring, the Sandaime said with a nod. He looked around the table, most seemed to think that it was Iwagakure that hired them. He too thought that as well. Even so, we must act with proof. We don't know much about the Akatsuki, and we can't prove that the Sandaime Sakikage hired them. We have allies and people who look up to us. We cannot afford to be seen as provoking a fight. We might need help after the war from them, Shikaku said in agreement. If they go on thinking that Konoha just started the war, they might not help after the war. If we are going to look into the matter, how about we have the Uzumaki use their resources for the good of the village? The words were met with complete silence. This was a delicate matter that wasn't openly brought up to the chambers. They knew of the resources, but the villagers didn't know, 99% of Anu forces didn't know, and the remaining percentage didn't care because they had no relationship with the resources. The two parties didn't like each other. That, however, was not why the matter was a delicate matter. It was delicate because it was meant to be secret. Speaking about this was not permitted, at least for anyone not a clan head or a military commander. There was no law that said it wasn't supposed to be spoken about, it was just something that never happened. Everyone had their secrets after all. Drayasuma's intel has always been spot on and has never failed us. We can all agree that we depend on it because it has always been reliable. I'm not taking anything away from him, but don't you think that it will be much more effective if the Uzumaki took part? No, if they started showing us the information they have. Hayashi nodded, stern-faced. So far, they have only been focused on providing military police forces with information regarding to what is happening inside the village. But it would be naive of us to think that they don't actually go outside the village to gain information. Sarutobi turned his attention to Naruto. The redhead had yet to twitch to acknowledge the fact that they were talking about the clan he represented. In previous meetings, he had been difficult to deal with. Would it be different this time? Perhaps so, it did include Fugaku after all. He was the man who took his time to train him. Then, what does the Uzumaki have to say? The Sandaime Hokage asked. Naruto took his time to respond. It was always something when the eyes turned towards him. He didn't enjoy the attention, but it brought this urge in him to play out something slightly dramatic. Naruto shook his head slightly. He needed to take this seriously. We have already started the investigation. We don't know if we will get the results, but I will leave the village in 3 nights to collect some information, Naruto stated. His people didn't face dangerous people head-on. They were cautious, and when something was dangerous, they either stayed away or got someone else to look into it. He had to move this time because real intelligence was available in the pit of a snake. You can't leave the village then, Naruto, Minato said. I don't know when you will return. But you have a guest. The Mizukage will be coming into the village in the next days. When Naruto gave the man a look, Minato smiled. We will talk about that after the meeting. You hadn't talked to him about it. The Sandaime shook his head. Can we expect the information soon? Yes, Naruto said. Konoha will have to pay for the expenses though. This is no time for greed, Uzumaki Tsume snapped. Naruto gave the woman an indifferent look. Do you even understand the term greed, woman? The tone was just cold, ice cold. It brought about all thoughts into silence. We get paid for the maintenance of the barrier around the village, but we don't get paid for any other thing. You don't understand how much we spend for the use of these resources. Sometimes we have to buy to know. As much as we would like to offer our services, we can't bear any more costs. Well, considering that you have gone all out to start a big project in Uzu, it is reasonable to say that the clan needs some sort of income. The Sealing Corps generated income with their specialized services and sales and seals. But now they are no longer there. Not mention the clan takes on a great burden in providing for its orphanage and its other charity work. The clan also has to be sustained as well. Shikaku offered a reason to before the thoughts of greed could take into effect. How much do you really spend a month? A couple of millions every month, Naruto said. That much. If the village is going to be paying that much money, there needs to be accountability. We need to know what is happening and how the money is spent. Or the resources should be for the Hokage to control. Hayashi suggested. You're ridiculous, Naruto said. If this village needs its own services, it can create its own intelligence services and fund it. I won't complain. What is Uzumaki will remain Uzumaki. Even if the Hokage is part of the Uzumaki, I will not allow it. Minato sighed. This would not go anywhere until he intervened. Konoha will meet you halfway, the Hokage said. This should be fair enough if we are not going to know how the money is distributed. But you must hand me your budget, it will only be for my eyes. Fine. We have handled the evidence part. But what are we going to do once we have gained it? Hayashi asked. The Akatsuki will be placed in our bingo books, and all our shinobi will be made aware of them. If they are cited somewhere, we will go after them. If they were not powerful S-rank criminals, I instruct a hunt for them, Minato said. The village which is found to be responsible will have to face the consequences. More discussions on what sanctions Konoha will take will be discussed once we have physical evidence. It will be easy for the Fire Lord to take action as well when we have evidence, Sarutobi said. I am most worried about this Jinchuriki problem we are facing, Chusa said a bit strongly. We all saw just what one Bajou was able to do. It had been hopeless until the Hokage did something. Against 4, it will be something else that I do not want to think about. These villages know we are experts when it comes to seals, and they will come prepared for that. I need to know something that will at least make me sleep better at night. Because if we don't have a concrete plan, we will be doomed. Another round of silence settled in. The Uzumaki had been tasked with this, and even without the Sealing Corps, I still think you should come with the tools, Hayashi said. How about teaching the art to a few select who show promise? The Hokage is a prime example that you don't have to be an Uzumaki to have an affinity with seals. If you're not going to do that, then at least tell us your thoughts. Uzumaki this, Uzumaki that, don't you get tired? Are you not capable of doing anything without Uzumaki? This village was saved because Uzumaki. The Hokage learned the seals from the Uzumaki, and you still want the Uzumaki to play another vital role, Naruto said with a slight shake of his head. If the decision was up to me, I would find the locations of all Jinchurikis and keep surveillance on them. When they say the war has started, I move to disable them before they get a chance to attack. What I have noted is that they tend to be dependent on the power of their Bajuas. If you remove that aspect, you kill them off. And the war becomes easy. Shikaku smiled. If you systematically remove their biggest weapons, you gain an advantage. These nations will have other means to fight, but removing their Jinchurikis before they even get the chance to fight will be something they will not think of. They will have to strategize, and during that time war will be continuing. Of course, there is the issue of morale amongst their ranks, the Nara explained before pausing to allow everyone else to grasp what he was saying. The question then is, are we brave enough to sanction that move? It is without question that we have to do it, Hayashi was quick to say. Hokage office. Minato rubbed his temple as he fought back a headache. He had expected a tough meeting, but when Shikaku had asked the question, the opinions differed. They all got along when they were facing Naruto. Perhaps it was always them against the Uzumaki. And usually, they did not win. You could have warned me that you had such a thought, and then we could have planned it without them being involved, Minato said to Naruto, who was sitting in front of his desk. The redhead Uzumaki shrugged. It never came to mind, he said. Though, I am surprised that you'd be willing to make such a move. It is very unlike you. Minato's eyes flashed cold for a second before returning to the normal bright blue. I have been into war. You cannot fight a war beautifully. War is war, there is no nice way to put it. I am not willing to do anything underhanded. This is just a good strategy that will save Konoha lives. True, I want peace, but I would not forgive myself if I allowed my decisions to jeopardize Konoha's future. While I am acting as Konoha's coach, I must always think of the village's best interests. But still won't compromise your principles for victory, Naruto said. It will be a pity that I have to go against Uchiha, but it is necessary. Then, what is this about the Mizukage? Minato thought of a couple of ways to put it. He had thought of ways before, but nothing had ever seemed sufficient to please his son. Karin had been put into the equation, but when he had looked into her innocent eyes, he had decided against pitting her with her brother and keep her out of adult matters. When the Yondaime could not find a nice way to say it, he decided to just get on with it. She is coming here to discuss your marriage with her. I negotiated with her and we decided to go on with the marriage, the Yondaime Hokage said. It doesn't have to be real. Even if it is fake, I am okay with it. Whether you want it to be real or not, will depend on you. But what I agreed on with her was that it would be on paper. We still have to make it look real though. This is why she is coming over to the village to discuss things with you. You may have to stay a couple of days in Kiri just to make it look legit. When people know it's not real, they can act. Naruto was silent for a minute or so. Once done thinking, he responded calmly. If you were not my father, I would have said no. Even so, the redhead said. This is the least I can do for your dream. Minato smiled. I appreciate it. You're the one who stands beside me in everything. No matter what people say, you always stand beside me, ready to defend my name. I have not been living according to the script. Perhaps it was because I desired to be different from you, Naruto said. Maybe, but regardless of everything, you are my son. Perhaps I have failed on some things, but failing to stand by you would be my greatest failure as a parent, Minato said in a serious tone. Are you going to be with the Uchiha? This is a difficult time for them, and after everything, I think it will be best if you are there for support. I know you can't offer much in terms of emotional support, but your presence there will mean a lot. But they are not in grieving mode, Naruto said. Though, their emotions are wild at this stage. Fugaku commanded a lot of respect for his clan. They will go wild if nothing is done. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them went rogue to take revenge. We will try by all means to stop it, Minato said. They are saying that he might come back alive. You know about the Sharingan? What can you say? Not much. The Dojutsu has the ability to turn reality into an illusion. The Nidaime really did fear it. Anything is possible. If the Uchiha are expecting something to happen, then it might, Naruto explained lightly. We will see, Minato said. What are you going to be doing tonight? Sleeping, Naruto said calmly. Tsunade was not able to look at my hand yesterday. She will look at it at noon, and later on do an operation. I will be crippled then. I can't move out when I am like that. I also have much to do for the clan, and also to think about what my next move will be, and there is the Uchiha. What about Danzo? What are you planning? Times are hard now and Konoha needs all the manpower it can get, Naruto started calmly. With this in mind, I will have to isolate Danzo to get rid of him. His root forces won't do a revolt. If anything, they will be lost with their master dead. You can figure something out after then. But you need to justify your actions, Naruto. Danzo has committed an action punishable by death by attacking a clan head. I am like this because of his actions, is that not reasonable? What I meant was that we need something more tangible, Minato was quick to say. We have to be legitimate in everything we do. If we can't be like that, people will question our motives. We need tangible evidence to present when people come with questions. You should know that your word alone is not enough, and even if I do back you up, people might say it is only because I am your father. My reputation doing the damage then, Naruto said with a shake of his head. Yes, but if you present real evidence before the council, you won't get my approval to do it, but the council's approval. It will be like a mission, an S-rank mission, Minato said. The council will then decide what it will do with the root Anbu. In times like this, we cannot trust Danzo. He will plot to complicate things. I don't need him to add to the problems. My search will be complete soon, Naruto said. I might have to leave before the Mizukage gets here though. We are searching for someone who will lead us into the truth. If we find him, I will have to leave the village in a hurry to be able to get to him, the redhead said. We will deal with that if does happen in that order, Minato said. Naruto said nothing further. He stood up from the chair and walked out of the office. Minato blinked. Did Naruto just use the door to leave his office? Unknown location. It was an odd feeling the Raikage felt in this kind of environment, and the situation that surrounded him. He was meeting in secret with the Sandaime Sakikage. Normally, they would just speak through letters, but now the time had come to put things in motion. They had to work on a plan because of Uwa's recent actions. Of course, if Konoha came out with its weapons blazing, he would deny even knowing about it. Onoki had planned the assault on his own, and he hadn't paid a cent to the Akatsuki. He would rather get rid of the organization than use them. Perhaps he would only use them when it was obvious that they would be killed in their adventures. Konoha should be shaken by this event, Onoki said. We can confirm that Uchiha Fugaku is dead along with some people. Were you able to confirm it as well? Yes, the Raikage responded. He knew that Onoki had also sent his people to observe the battle. He had said those people had disappeared when the Yondaime Hokage appeared in the battlefield. Certainly, if they had been caught there, Minato would be linked them to Iwa and perhaps retaliated against them. I wonder how Konoha will react. We have been pushing and pushing, but the village refuses to make the first move, Onoki said, slightly frustrated that Minato refuses to make the first move to ignite the war. Minato is cautious, and I doubt he wants to be remembered as the man who started the Fourth Shinobi War. At this point, it is safe to say that he won't do anything extreme. We have military advantage over Konoha. They will want to see how we move so that they can utilize their forces decisively, a reason. Troublesome forces, but we have done the damage. The Uzumaki were reduced to just a name, and we have cut off the head of the Uchiha clan. It's not a bad time to make the first move, Onoki said. But first we must discuss how we will cooperate in our advance. We can't act separately. I will not underestimate Konoha again and risk losing the war. This is my last chance, and if I lose this one, it is all over. Konoha will remain as the strongest. It will not because it will not be victorious. We have the military power needed to see out the victory. Konoha doesn't even have a Jinchuriki as far as my intelligence is concerned. We have 4 and all of them can transform into full Bajoa. But of course we cannot rely on them, said. It would be a fatal mistake if we were to depend on them, Onoki said with a nod. We have to think of a smart way to use them. If we just use them recklessly, Konoha will disable them before they can do any damage, Onoki added. For now, it would best to keep them hidden. I have already located a place to hide mine. I suggest keep this location a secret to everyone. Even when we deploy them, it should be something only communicated between us. If we hit them when they do not expect it, we will thin down their forces, while pushing them back to their village. It would be easy to pick them apart when they are in one place. 2 days later. Uchiha compound. Naruto was sitting behind the main house with Itachi beside him. They were watching Karin spar with Sasuke. It was one of those moments they allowed the young ones to play around before going out to reward them with a meal. The children had a tendency to demand a sparring session between the adults, but they never got it. Your brother will become something when he does grow up, Naruto said watching Sasuke move. Well, he does have someone to surpass, and with all resources available to him, it would be a shame if he didn't show the skills he has now. No doubt the Uchiha would be hailed as a genius in his days. Itachi was a prodigy. Fugaku was truly blessed with skilled children. The man himself had been a blessed fighter. Well, with those cursed eyes, to become weak was a choice. Anyone within the clan had a potential to become great. But it all depended on the mentality and a bit of luck. You didn't have to come from a great clan or possess a bloodline to become great. Skills and determination made one a great shinobi or a kunoichi. There were not a lot of great kunoichi these days. Perhaps Tsunade and the Mizukage were the exceptions. Still, Mei had 2 bloodlines and a man hailed as a god of shinobi taught Tsunade. Not to mention she came from the Senju clan. Your sister moves skillfully and with grace. She knows how to use her hands and legs, Itachi said. But that is all there is to it. She is good with weapons, but nothing in ninjutsu. Why is that? Karin's future isn't that of a fighter, but a diplomat for her clan, and perhaps for the village. Of course, she has to know how to defend herself, but her focus won't be fighting. I will allow her to reach Chunin, but afterwards, we will return to the clan. There will be a lot to do in the years to come. Itachi thought of it for a moment before responding, well, your clan will be involved in a lot of trade with other villages and clans if your project manages to become big as you hoped for it. You could find yourself managing a big trade business that would certainly make the Uzumaki wealthy. Ideally, it should happen like that, Naruto said. That will be something I leave for my clan. Naruto paused before changing the subject. You are certainly acting normal. Everything within the clan has returned normal. Itachi was silent for about a minute. Inabi spoke to all clan members. Perhaps people may think we are being delusional, but there is a certain belief that we all hold. This unwavering faith in our leader will see this clan through this difficult time. Itachi said. Of course there are some members misbehaving, but we have been working around the clock to ensure that no one does anything stupid. Though, there has been a suggestion that we should be allowed to take on those 4. I see, Naruto said. I will depart the village later on tonight. The Mizukage is supposed to arrive later on tomorrow, but there is something that came up. I should return as quickly as I can. What? We have found the bait, and I am going to collect it will be difficult, but at the end of the day, I will bring back valuable intel that will be useful to your clan and to the village, Naruto said as he stood up. Send my apologies to your mother for leaving the village in such a difficult time, but it cannot be helped. I'm sure she will understand, Itachi said. The following morning, Naruto stared at his left hand for a moment, as he got a feeling of it. It felt brand new. He had his thoughts about Tsunade and never really thought much about her, but she knew her work when it came to medical ninjutsu. He had at least praised her on that note. Of course, that hadn't done anything to change the woman's opinion about him, and she had even gone as far as to threaten to crush his hand if he pissed her off again. She would get a chance to do that as she had to look at it again to see how his chakra system was reacting to the fixed hand. Naruto shook his head as he focused on his mission. He was within the forest of the sound, sitting on tree branch, waiting for someone. He had not slept through the night. It had been a night of traveling and scouting the surrounding area just to make things were safe. I had a feeling that someone was watching me, Kabuto said, looking up at the redhead. Despite my best attempts to catch the person, nothing ever worked. But when I heard that you crossed the borders last night, I decided to rush back to Orochimaru-sama. I didn't expect you to be waiting for me along the way. His last encounters with the Uzumaki had left him with one fact: he could not win against the redhead. Rushing back to his master was a safe bet for him. Naruto would not do something audacious as walking into Orochimaru's hideout. The Uzumaki was too cautious to do something like that. Naruto jumped down from the tree and landed down in front of Kabuto. We have been looking for you, Kabuto. You are quite slippery, but our eyes cannot lose a target once we have locked on. Kabuto tilted his head in a thoughtful look. What have I done to warrant your interest? Have you come to perhaps kill me? It would be unfavorable right now. I do not have an army with me, and considering that would do against you. Have no fears, I did not come here to kill you. We are merely interested in using you for something that will be beneficial. I would rather you do not make much noise, because if you do, the condition you will be in will not be good for you. He said he wanted him alive. It didn't matter if he was going to be in one piece or not. Kabuto laughed. I have to admit, those words frighten me a little, but I am afraid I cannot just lie down and let you do as you please. Disappointing, Naruto said, his eyes parting barely, a ruthless glint appearing as he held out his right hand, summoning his blade. Without warning, he blurred out of existence and appeared in front of Kabuto, the blade on his right hand cutting across the nin's chest. It would have cut through him, but Kabuto moved on instinct, stepping back slightly to avoid the blow. Naruto moved faster, closing the distance before Kabuto could settle on his landing. Fast. Kabuto thought with wide eyes as Naruto flashed in front of him. From recovering from the momentum of his swing to again moving closer to him, it was massive speed that he could not follow. The redhead was fast, but he had not thought he was this fast. Kabuto flinched when Naruto's left hand grabbed his right hand forcefully and pulled him towards the blonde. Naruto's sword was positioned to pierce through his chest as he was being pulled over. He held out his left hand, and the sword pierced through the palm of his hand. Naruto let go on his sword and pushed him back with his left hand, making him lose balance. He twisted around while jumping into the air. A brutal kick landed on Kabuto's face, sending him flying backwards like a bullet. Naruto flashed behind the man, his left hand held out and grabbed the man. He forcefully twirled around, bringing Kabuto in front of him. Kabuto latched his right hand, armed with a chakra scalpel, straight towards Naruto's face. The blonde tilted his head to the side, avoiding the blow. As he was doing that, Naruto was getting hold of his sword once again. Once he caught it, it burst into flames. His left hand caught Kabuto's stretched hand. In a second, Kabuto was falling backwards with Naruto holding his hand. Blood spilled through Kabuto, cursing. I think I have explained this to you. My father played a brutal game with me. He made me play a game of tag with him while he was teleporting using the Hiraishin. For years I tried but failed, until one day I did. I moved so fast that I was able to catch him before he could teleport to another kunai. My senses, reflexes, instincts are second to none when we are standing in a battlefield, Naruto explained, walking over to Kabuto slowly. I will be taking you to Konoha. Which body parts would you like to go with, your remaining hand or feet? Kabuto cursed, but the last statement made him aware of something. Going to Konoha, it meant those people could look into his mind. He twisted around with a determined look on his face. The moment he did so, Naruto was standing in front of him, and his right hand was shoved into his mouth. The redhead grabbed Kabuto's tongue. I'm positive that you just realized that I want to poke into your head. You'd rather fry your brain than allow that to happen. There must be dangerous traps in here as well. Kabuto tried to scream as markings began to spread out from his mouth, going through his head. Unbearable pain shot through his head as it felt as if his head was been squeezed hard with every intention of being crushed. Uchiha compound. Somewhere under the main house a body was laid to rest in a dark room. Eyelids suddenly flashed open, but the left had a crimson eye that glowed dangerously. Chapter 20. Kabuto stirred slightly as he drifted off from the world of ignorance. His throbbing head forced his eyes to remain shut for a few moments as he tried to wrestle with the pain. Within a few seconds, his body was ignoring it, and eyes snapped open. The memories of his last conscious encounter flooded his mind, and he tried to shake off whatever that was holding him because he could not move his legs. No, it wasn't that he could not move them, he just couldn't feel them. His eyes fell down, and he saw nothing. Kabuto didn't feel shocked enough to widen his eyes. He did feel slightly afraid though. He did not have his feet. Naruto had cut them. He could remember the memory like it was yesterday. It could have been yesterday because he could not tell how much time passed while he was knocked out due to the pain he had been experiencing. He had seen so many dismembered and disfigured bodies in his time with Orochimaru. Even though he had never thought he would be in this kind of a situation, acting all shocked would certainly just being dramatic. Then again, what was ever wrong with being dramatic? "You're awake," Naruto said to Kabuto, who was hanged on a cross. Kabuto moved his head to follow the voice he could remember quite well. Yes, he would never really forget Naruto's voice, no matter what. "As you can see," Kabuto responded calmly. He could not see the redhead Uzumaki clan head. The room was dark and cold. Obviously, it was underground. He doubted he was even in Konoha. He knew everything that one needed to know about Konoha. He had been the village's spy after all. "My first thought was taking you to Orochimaru, with all your body parts sealed by beside you. But I thought it would be just dangerous," the redhead said as he came into appearance. "I don't think Orochimaru would have even thought you were a fair trade for us to get what we want." Kabuto appeared thoughtful for a moment. It was not the first time that Naruto was using this "we," but he was just alone. Kabuto could not sense anyone from this room. He was certain that it was just the two of them, so what did Naruto mean by us? The former niece spy pushed the thoughts at the back of his head. That wasn't the important matter. He needed to think of a way to escape the situation. Even if he was delusional, he wouldn't think of a way for him to catch Naruto off guard, and then make a run for it. He didn't have legs. It was going to need a mental game for him to escape here. If he fails, he was going to die. "You don't really need me alive to get information out of my head," Kabuto said. "Why am I still alive? You have done all these to me, and I think if I had been cooperative, you would have even worked on another way to get the information without doing any harm." Naruto didn't bother denying it. "I cut off those pieces of flesh because you refused my option. If you had been willing to give me what I wanted in exchange of survival, I would have considered otherwise. There is no need to go about that at this moment, because really, nothing is going to change at this point." Kabuto frowned for a second. The redhead was saying that he wasn't going to listen to anything he was going to say, in the form of trying to negotiate a deal for survival. His mind was already made on the matter. Was this simply it? No, he was still alive. There would always be a way to negotiate his survival as long as he had a mouth to use. His mind had been the thing that attracted Orochimaru to him, it was not his power. Would Orochimaru even try to look for him though? Perhaps if he does find out who was the person that caught him. But there was no way of learning that before it was too late. In the letter he had sent Orochimaru, he had not said Naruto's name because at that point, he hadn't known it was the redhead who was following him. Going back to the hideout was the best option because it would lead his pursuers who could have found his master waiting for them with a painful experience. He had not managed to reach the hideout. Then, why am I still alive if I am going to die in the end? "Your existence is only for a short period of time," Naruto said in an indifferent tone. "I attached a seal to you that is connected to your brain. We cannot look into your head because we do not think the jutsus, but making you talk through pain is another way we can go about it. However, You have worked with a masochist, a measure of pain will not work. Hence the decision to just make sure that your defenses don't activate the moment you die, Naruto explained. Either the Uchiha or a Yamanaka will get in easily and get the information. Doesn't matter, because in the end, we will get what we want. The we wasn't something that Kabuto focused on. At that moment, he just thought of activating his defenses to avoid something like that happening. He knew many secrets, so many things. I actually lied, Naruto said with eyes fully opened. The thing I told you about the seal is a lie. The seal doesn't work in the way I said. You don't need to know. What we will do is to get everything out of your head that we want, and then destroy it, then send you to the Yamanaka. They will find what we want them to find. This conversation never actually happened. Of course he'll be dead by then, Naruto finished calmly. Root bases. Danzo frowned as he looked at the urgent message he had received from Orochimaru. It has been just 24 hours since Naruto left the village and already, the Snake Sannin was sending him alarming news. The Sannin himself wasn't that disturbed, or so his message claimed. But Danzo could understand. He was the one who was in danger in this kind of a situation. Naruto had Kabuto in his possession, and he didn't put it past the Uzumaki to be able to bypass all the security measures one would put inside the head to avoid any mind reader from learning secrets. It was a problem for him since Kabuto knew many things would make it difficult for Minato and the clan heads to overlook. Perhaps it was the redhead's way of coming towards him after what he had done. He had not even come to face with the Uzumaki after it had become too late for his hand to be saved. Revenge possibly, or just a clean way to get rid of him without doing anything that would leave him open for attack. What to do? An answer wasn't really simple because if he allowed Naruto to get to the village, he was in every meaning of the word, screwed. The person he was dealing with wasn't any easy person to deal with either. The Uzumaki had already killed one of his people, so if he made a move against the redhead, he would likely retaliate. Nevertheless, if he doesn't do anything, he would be hanged. What was he going to do? There was nothing he could use to blackmail the redhead. Nothing. Not a damn thing. Threats hadn't proved capable of doing anything in the past. Perhaps things have changed with time. Should he try kidnapping someone? That would certainly get the redhead to behave, but at the same time, it would make his dislike of him grow into unacceptable proportions, and he might even get the Hokage involved. Knowing Minato, anyone within the Uzumaki, or close to the main family had the Hirashing seal on them. He couldn't even move to the members of that clan without being seen. The few of them were always within their compound hidden and way from his reach. Those who left the compound stood out from the rest of the villagers. Would guarding the outskirts of the village do? He could go on to meet the redhead himself. That would make things a lot easier. No, Naruto was dangerous. He wasn't the sort of a person you wanted to back against a corner. Even with all his power and schemes, Danzo was not willing to bet against the Uzumaki. It would be a dangerous game. Inoue, Danzo called calmly. Have this place cleaned up. Nothing must remain. Hi, the man responded in a firm tone, knowing where this was going. Hokage office. It was really Fugaku in the flesh. Naruto was right, anything was possible with the Sharingan. The Dojutsu was capable of doing many things. It was just downright frightening. He could not understand why Heishi even to this day continues to debate that the Byakugan is as good, or even better than the Sharingan. A man who had been killed was back alive. None of the elder Ukas were surprised, but just happy. To be able to deny death and make it to be just an illusion with just the cost of ones of his eye. Was there any other Dojutsu that could achieve that feat? No wonder the Dojutsu was feared in all nations. It was no wonder his son, a person who didn't seem to fear anything, feared going against the Sharingan. Between him and the redhead, Naruto was the one who was exposed to its abilities and had much experience with how it worked. Minato sighed as he shook his head. Naruto probably won't even blink when you greet him, the blonde Hokage said calmly. Nothing really surprises him, especially given his understanding of the Sharingan, Fugaku responded calmly. There was no one alive who knew about their Dojutsu more than the redhead Uzumaki. He knew many things, a good thing he did not go around sharing that information, and there was no chance of anyone getting that intel out of his head. For the clan head of the Uzumaki, trying to read his mind was just a suicide mission, even for him or Itachi for that matter. But that isn't the important matter here, Fugaku said in a serious tone. Those guys who attacked me, they were sent by Onoki. While Kakuzu didn't want to talk, his partner Haiden was more than happy to say everything. He was confident that I would die. Well, I did die in the end. How did it happen? This Haiden, he is immortal. That is no joke, Minato. He cannot die. No matter how many times I stabbed him, hit him with fire jutsus, he would not lie down for too long. Fugaku shook his head at the memories flashing inside his head. I would have probably escaped them even after those other two involved themselves, or at least taken one of them, but Haiden managed to get my blood and performed this ritual. The Uchiha explained the ordeal, while Minato listened carefully. It had been an unbelievable battle. Fugaku had never thought that he would actually find himself fighting someone who was immortal. It wasn't that he didn't believe such people existed. Everything was possible in this shinobi world. For a man who has seen much in his life, nothing could really surprise him. He did wield a dojutsu that could rewrite reality. The Akatsuki appear to be much more troublesome than I first thought, Minato said. This doesn't change anything though, it just means now we go into battle knowing what to expect. Fugaku nodded. I doubt even Onoki knows the full extent of their abilities. How much do you know about the organization? Not much, Minato admitted. I just know that they are a mercenary group comprised of S-ranked criminals. I don't know how many, I don't even know their leader. But I assume he must be a really powerful man to be able to control this powerful group. Fugaku nodded in agreement. He was not able to gain much information about the group during his battle with the members, but he was certain that it was not a group to be underestimated. Their threat was real, and it had to be looked into before they become a real problem. They were a mercenary group at this stage, but what about tomorrow? Surely such powerful individuals would not be satisfied with just making money in the form of taking jobs from anyone who was willing to pay. Sooner or later, they would start doing something else. It was best to know everything about them now, and do try to remove them now before they got into anything serious. Well, for a group as powerful, it was not an ideal situation for Konoha. The village was facing the combined forces of Uegakure and Kumagakure. In the eyes of the Uchiha clan head, he was seeing a war that had already started. They were already fighting, but they were not losing and would not lose. This was just the warm-up rounds. Konoha would go on the attack, and these villages would learn to respect the hidden leaf. They would pay for everything that they have done. What are you doing about them? Fugaku asked seriously. He would certainly be disappointed if Minato didn't have anything tangible that could appease him. We don't know much about them. It is best to say we don't know anything about the organization. We just have a few names, but no locations, no agendas. Nothing. Drea is digging into it for information. I have sent messages to our allies to assist with information, and to inform us if they do know anything. Given that there is so much unknown about the organization, I have not put an official team to hunt them down. Nevertheless, in case we hear anything, my son, your son Drea, Kakashi, Guy and myself will take turns to fight. It will be partnerships as the organization works in pair. Fugaku appeared to think about it for a moment before nodding. It is acceptable, he said. Given what they had, he could understand the situation. There was nothing that they could do until they do find more information about the organization. What about Onoki? Fugaku all but demanded with his lone eye staring at the Yondaime Hokage. Naruto should be returning to the village by day end, Minato said. We will discuss it then, with the rest of the council members. I don't care what action has to be taken now. We are already at war with the village now, nothing will matter. However, at the end of the way, he must pay. Minato refused to comment on it. Their forces should be moving soon enough. Your clan will be essential in this war. but I would like to minimize our casualties as much as we can. I will hold a meeting, but we are much more motivated in fighting than ever before, Fugaku said firmly. Uchiha compound. Everything appeared to be running smoothly. Nothing was out of place and no one had decided to take a drastic measure that would surely have placed the clan on a bad standing with the villagers once again. Fugaku was at least happy with that. Making Inabi a senior had been the correct decision. Would Itachi have done better? He could not tell. There was still a lot that his son needed to learn. Overall, he had no doubt over his son's intelligence. Naruto of all people was leading his clan in a way that he had thought would have been impossible for him. The redhead's personality hadn't given any indications that he would actually fight for someone else. Naruto had always fought for himself, and leadership qualities had been something that he never possessed. He had outright hated taking responsibilities. Nevertheless, he was not being responsible was actually showing all the qualities that were required from a leader. If Naruto could do it, then Itachi could, and even better. His son was a lot smarter than the redhead. Perhaps Naruto could make a great leader despite his flaws. However, would he become a great leader of the masses? Fugaku didn't think it would be likely. Naruto didn't even think about becoming Hokage. Minato says that Naruto has gone out of the village, Fugaku said to Itachi. Itachi nodded. He said he was going to collect something. I assume it has something to do with the Akatsuki and the incident involving you. He said that he would be investigating about what had happened. The Uchiha paused for a moment before adding. When we came into the battlefield, he was willing to risk his life to fight the Akatsuki. Minato told me. I have to say I was surprised though, Fugaku said. We haven't been getting along recently, and I was starting to think that I have become nothing to him despite everything that I did for him. Well, I did have my reasons for doing what I did and Naruto knew them. It doesn't change the fact nevertheless. In any case, I know I just returned from the dead. But this is a good time to talk about these matters before the war breaks loose. Itachi went silent for a few moments before nodding. I understand, he said. You need to start preparing yourself to lead the clan. In order to train you, I will start giving you some responsibilities even though we will be in war. You already have a respectable reputation in the village, but you're still young and do not have any experience in leading, Fugaku said. Naruto is already a leader. When things start falling into place, people will start noticing his leadership qualities and might ignore all other things he has done. He has turned on a new leaf. People are noticing because he is Naruto. In all the years I have known him, Naruto has never displayed the desire to become Hokage. Even so, if people start praising him for his role in the revival of the Uzumaki clan, they might vouch for him to become the next Hokage after Minato. I don't hate Naruto. At one time, I saw him as my son. But I want you to become the Godame Hokage. We Uchihas have been overlooked in the past generations because of the mistrust between the clan and the villagers as well its leaders. Now we no longer have that problem. If we don't seize this opportunity, the problems of the past will resurface in the future. I don't want to take over the village, but I want an Uchiha to finally become a Kage, otherwise we will never be at peace. Itachi absorbed everything silently. True, he has no desire to become Hokage, but his father may choose him. Even so, he said that if he was forced to accept it, it would only be for a short time. For him, it would be a chance to have lived as Konoha's Hokage, but it would not be for more than a handful of years before handing the mantle to me. We are close, but Naruto understands the workings of this village and its villagers much more than he is willing to admit. He knows that even if the villagers do trust me to protect them, becoming their Hokage is another thing, especially when they know I can manipulate their will. If I get to work beside him during his term, it would make a smooth transition. Besides that, I really wish for Naruto to become a Kage. With everything that has happened, and what will happen during the war, it is likely that he will not grow old. For his dream, he needs much more to leave a legacy behind. Well, Naruto isn't deceptive. So there is no reason to doubt his word. Fugaku shook his head. If we were to start doubting him, then there would really be no one to trust. In any case, work something out with him because it will be up to you two. Itachi took a thoughtful look as he thought about the Uzumaki clan. It was going to grow a lot more influential after the war, and that meant a growth in Naruto's name. The redhead would certainly take joy in it. Still, there was still a lot that one didn't know about the clan. Both Anbu and police force didn't snoop around, and there were no incidents that occurred around the clan's compound. Even though it was full of activities, Naruto housed clan heads much more than his father. All clan heads have gone to the Uzumaki compound, and Naruto has never visited anyone. Tell me, father, if it were up to the clan heads, would they vote for Naruto to be the Kage? Fugaku was blunt. No. Later. Uzumaki compound. As far as she could see, Mei could say that she was truly privileged to be walking around the Uzumaki compound. She had talked with some people in her entrance to the village, and she had come to understand that entrance to the clan's compound wasn't given to just anyone, and even if you did get inside, seeing anything out of the ordinary wasn't likely because there was a path that was created for outsiders. It was something else, wasn't it? Yes, the clan did need to have its privacy, but this was just going too far. To think that the villagers didn't even know the inside of the compound because it was always hidden away from all prying eyes. Not even Konoha's famed jujutsus were able to see through. The Gode Mizukage was being given a tour around the compound. Perhaps only because she was going to be married to Naruto. The redhead hadn't been in the village when she came here. He had been away, apparently on some important business. She didn't want to think that it was much more important than her. That would just give her mixed feelings. Your orphanage looks like a boarding school for the elite, Mei commented as she walked side by side with Izumi. Her guards were not with her. If she was going to take the tour, she had to be alone. They were being catered for in a hotel. Her safety was now in the hands of the Uzumaki. We prefer the best in everything, Izumi responded calmly. We are a prestigious clan after all. Everything that is ours must not be half-baked, it was always has to be better than good. I wouldn't go as far as to say perfect, but we do strive for perfection. Their work was supposed to be the best, as with their seals. It wouldn't be good for their reputation if anything that was associated with the clan was half-baked or just second class. No, they always had to produce the best, just to preserve that prestigious image. Well, I do understand why Naruto is taking risks to make sure the clan's finances are secured, Mei said in a thoughtful tone. What can you tell me about the clan itself? There seem to be many interesting things going around here. It does feel slightly empty though. Izumi didn't deny that. There were not a lot of Uzumaki in the compound because most of them were dead. It used to be lively and full of energy back then, but there are a few of us now. Even so, there are days these streets are flooded with children from the orphanage, and bright lights accompanied by laughter. Most people are at work now, and the children are in class. Of course, Konoha wouldn't even know there is a party occurring in here because of the barrier around the compound. This place did feel like it wasn't inside of Konoha after all. The compound was in a world of its own, separated from Konoha. You only realized you were in the hidden leaf when you went outside the compound gates. Mei looked around for a bit before retreating into the back of her mind. Although she was being given a tour around the place, she could not say she had seen anything that was worth keeping a barrier around the compound. Everything has looked normal so far. The rest of the walk to the main house was silent. It had been forced by the fact that Mei had tried to get information out of Izumi, but the woman had refused to divulge anything she was being asked. The Gode Mizukage had not bothered the woman any further, knowing she would not get any answers. Besides, she didn't want to leave the impression that she was prying. When they arrived at the main house, Naruto was already sighted in the reception room. Nothing much had changed from the redhead. Except the feeling. Yes, it was a little different now that he was sitting at the small podium before her. I was beginning to think that I would eventually leave the village without seeing you, Mei said as she settled down. She hadn't come here for Naruto only, there were other matters that she had been dealing with the Konoha's council. Naruto was included, but he hadn't been present for the meeting. I'm sure you've been informed that I was out on important matters. Recently, Konoha's forces were attacked by the Akatsuki. I was out trying to gather information about the attack, Naruto explained lightly. Then turned to face Izumi. Was our guest treated with care? She nodded. How about things at your end? Fine. I brought back the brain. Inoichi is busy trying to go through it. I'm sure soon they will be calling me for a council meeting, Naruto responded calmly. Go to the academy and fetch Karin. Once you have her, the compound will be on lockdown. Izumi was curious. It wasn't just about what Naruto was saying, but the fact that she was leaving him with that woman. The redhead was supposed to get married to the cage, and although she would not admit it to anyone, it really did bother her. She could not voice her thoughts about it. Naruto hadn't even asked for her opinion about the matter. She shook her head and nodded to her leader before stepping out of the room to carry out the task Naruto had assigned to her. Is something happening? Naruto appeared to think about the answer before giving a ghost shrug. There is a 1% chance that this village might be rocked by a civil war, Naruto responded calmly. We have some inner problems that we must solve, and this clan might face the danger of retaliation from the subject because of its role in the matter. Though the chances are low, it does not hurt to be extra careful. Mei was surprised that he was willing to tell her something that was definitely a village secret. He could have kept it from her and she wouldn't have complained. Everything looks calm. The fighting might happen with the villagers being unaware of it, Naruto responded calmly. Nothing is already happening as we speak. I am just not willing to do anything at this moment to move about. I'm tired anyway, and there is you. I can afford to wait for another day. Sorting out village problems come first. It would be worthless for us to engage in the discussion if there is no village to protect, Mei said in a serious tone. We will not talk about the marriage thing now. Perhaps tomorrow, or later on at night. I'm just here to say I know we must talk, Naruto said to the Gode Mizukage. Do you have anything you'd like to ask regarding my clan? Mei took her time to respond. Why do I feel like an outsider in this compound? I just feel as if I don't belong here. Because you don't. For now at least, Naruto responded calmly. After the QB went on a rampage, the villagers started to discriminate against us. We were the hosts of the Bajoa, and they decided to direct their hatred towards us. We were not looked at fondly just as the Uchiha, but unlike them, many of us chose to enjoy the peace inside the compound and only leave here when it was necessary. The barrier around the compound separates it from the rest of Konoha. It was another intention for creating it. We needed to feel comfortable, and in here, there was no one staring, no one saying anything. We were in our own world. I guess over the years, people started feeling as if Konoha was the outside. Mei listened carefully before responding. It was apparent the hatred of Bajoas was everywhere, even in Konoha. It did surprise her that the villagers were willing to resent both the Ukas and the Uzumaki for the incident. Well, they were apparently in it somehow, but it didn't make it just to hold negative feelings over the incident as neither clan had a hand in it occurring. But things have changed now, Mei said. Well, it is what I have observed so far. Nothing ever remains the same in this world, Naruto said. Both the Uchiha and the Uzumaki are no longer scapegoats, but of course our insistence on keeping a barrier around the compound does seem to bother some people. But as long as it is only a minority, I have no complaints. Besides, it has served us well till now. Council chambers? Minato cleared his throat to draw the attention of the council members, who were staring at the Uchiha clan head. It was no surprise that he was the source of the attention due to his return from the dead. They had all confirmed that he was dead, but now he was alive. It was a miracle. Heishi could admit he was envious. It was no doubt the abilities of those cursed eyes, the eyes that made his Byakugan look ordinary. The Uchiha Dojutsu could do so many things, so many unbelievable things, and it made Heishi feel jealous. Nevertheless, now was not the time for those kinds of thoughts. It was now time to discuss matters of importance that affected the village and everyone inside of it. About an hour ago, Naruto returned to the village with Kabuto. Well, at least what was left of it, Minato started. Inoichi and his team took care of gathering information from his head. He has already briefed me on the details, but we will discuss it at large here. Inoichi, if you will. Before the Yamanaka could give his report, the Aburame clan head first spoke. How do we know that the brain wasn't tempered with? Although they might not want to show it, the Uzumaki are capable of many things. Besides, I'd find it difficult to believe that they would give everything without taking a look themselves. It was understandable. For a clan that insisted on knowing almost all things, it would be naive to think that they would catch a brain that has all the vital information, and not even try to look at it, or even temper with it to hide a few things they didn't want anyone knowing. The Uzumaki had secrets, and they went great lengths into protecting those secrets. You do raise a good point, Shikaku said with a nod, but this isn't the time for that. Besides, if they had just supplied the information to us, we may have found some difficulty to believe some of it if it was difficult to understand. This way, coming from Inoichi, we won't have any thoughts of foul play. The others seemed to agree on this. Then can we get on to it? Fugaku said in a firm tone. Some of us have other matters to deal with. Staying here to waste time in petty arguments and finger-pointing isn't on my schedule. You're impatient for a man who just returned from the dead, Hayashi couldn't help but say. The Uchiha clan head ignored him though. Of course, that didn't make him smile, but he chose not to comment on it as it would cause unnecessary fights to occur. Inoichi, if you may, the Yondaime Hokage said to the Yamanaka clan head. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Inoichi said. It was no time to feel proud that he held something important. It had been quite easy to obtain the information. Well, Naruto had informed him that he had weakened the defenses of the mind, so it would be easy for them to extract information. We were able to extract some valuable intelligence about Orochimaru, his dealings with Danzo and Onoki. We have all the information needed to confirm that Onoki was indeed the one who hired the Akatsuki to attack Konoha. Before the man could go any further, Hayashi spoke. Well, that settles everything. How did Kabuto know though? Apparently, Onoki was dealing with him. Kabuto was giving Onoki information about us. Orochimaru wanted to get his hands on the Sharingan without getting his hands dirty. Inoichi responded. The Sandaime Hokage shook his head. How low Orochimaru had fallen. Well, he shouldn't be surprised, should he? The Snake Sannin had escaped from the village after being caught doing some immoral experiments. Orochimaru was a twisted person. Though the fascination with the Sharingan was a new thing. Perhaps he had come to find it interesting. Well, with everything that the Sharingan could do, anyone would find it interesting, and possessing the Jujutsu would be a massive boost to anyone. For Orochimaru, it would just make him downright frightening and disappointedly a little more arrogant. A pity he could not get his hands on the Sharingan due to the measures taken by the Uchiha to protect their Jujutsu from falling into the wrong hands. What have you decided, Minato? The Sandaime asked. Well, the decision was ultimately up to the blonde since he was the cage. Honestly, I don't know, Minato said. Every action that can be taken against the village has to be extreme. It doesn't agree with my conscience, but it has to be done. We simply cannot condone such behavior from another cage, especially when we have done nothing to deserve it. I will call a cage meeting to officially declare war on Uegakure. In the meantime, no Iwa shinobi will be allowed to enter the Fire Nation and the Wind. No supplies from our bordering nations will reach Iwa. Of course, the war can be put on hold if the Tsukikage decides to come here and face execution, but he won't do that. So we will go into war. What made Minato feel better was that war was going to occur whether he declared it or not. No, they were already at war. The cage meeting would get him to see whom his enemies were and who was going to fight for Konoha. It would also give him a chance to get his feelings out there. We get all our supplies within the Fire Nation and some outside, but we can do without leaving the borders of the country, at least during the war. I wonder if Uegakure can survive. Fugaku said, with a rare ghost smile on his lips. But I still want him captured. Even if we do win the war, Onoki must be punished. Are you going to deny that, Hokage? Minato was saved from answering the question as a masked redhead flashed behind Naruto and whispered into his ear. What is the meaning of this, Uzumaki? Soon demanded from Naruto. We don't have this in this chamber. This is a neutral ground that M-. Naruto's eyes flashed toward the woman, who quickly shut up. The redhead stood up. You'll have to excuse me. There is an urgent matter that I must attend to. Everyone looked surprised by that, but no one got the chance to ask before the Uzumaki disappeared. What the hell happened? I suspect it has something to do with Danzo, Inoichi said. I'm sure by now he knows that we got into Kabuto's head. Given that he has dealt with Kabuto in person, he should be worried. With the previous incident, he should be worried. Well, considering that he had something to do with the Sealing Core demise, he has every reason to make a move now. Unknown location. Out of all the Uzumaki I have dealt with, you're certainly the one who visits the most, Kurama said to Naruto. But I sense that you came here for something. Naruto jumped down from where he stood and landed just in front of the Kyuubi. You and I are going to form a contract. You will fight by my side, and in exchange, you get to breathe some fresh air. I will even allow you to stay at Uzu while you get some fresh air. Kurama laughed. None of the Uzumakis have been willing to use my power. Are you going to break the tradition? Unfortunately, I don't have the time to chat, Naruto said. Are we going to do this or not? Well, I'm a little tired of sitting around this dark place. If I get the chance to go out, I will take it. Kurama said. Besides, it just increased chances of escaping. Would you like to do it my way? Naruto shook his head. No, my way is simple, the redhead said. Meanwhile, Root Base. He had known that Danzo would try something in order to avoid his death. Simply lying low and wait for death wasn't in the man's plans. Naruto had known that. He had made plans to avoid anything happening to his family by sending Izumi to get Karin. His sister was safe, but the man had managed to get his hands on Izumi. This was sort of like what the man did several years ago. Back then, he had done nothing, but Izumi had been unhurt. He had been glad, even though he did not show it. Perhaps appearing uncaring had worked then. Now, things were different. Izumi did everything for him, and she was an important member of the Uzumaki clan. Truly, he would be lost without her. This really reminds me of the incident years ago in the Forest of Death, Naruto said in a calm tone. Danzo was standing a couple of feet away from him, surrounded by his agents, with Izumi just front of the man. She was being made a human shield. Circumstances are different now, Danzo said. How much do you know? Orochimaru must have warned you, Naruto said. He too must have been worried about it since Kabuto was his trusted right-hand man. Locations researches all sorts of information inside Kabuto's head. To answer your question, I know what I need to know. Your right hand deals with Orochimaru and other shady movements. Danzo didn't show any physical reaction to anything Naruto had said. He had suspected something like that. The council will be told of this, and the Uchiha won't be happy. They will be more than willing to gather and assault this base. Well, you do possess their Dijutsu, which you gained through unforgivable means. Not to mention the Shizui incident has not been forgotten. They are a little angry right now with that mess relating to the Akatsuki. They would not be afraid to go out on war with you, Naruto said. This is what he had meant by telling Mei that there was a possibility of a civil war occurring in the village. Of course the villagers wouldn't know of it. Perhaps explosions would only alarm them, but it could be excused as some old facilities that were used by Anbu being demolished, and they would believe it. Danzo didn't just have an enemy in the Uzumaki, the whole of Konoha was at war with the War Hawk. Danzo had to be killed, and he would be killed. Maybe not today, but he would end up facing death, and Naruto was going to be the one to watch it all happen. I'm also not happy with you. You tried to put some doubt in Itachi's heart about me, of course that failed, but the fact is that you tried, Naruto added. Itachi told you about that? Naruto shook his head. I just know, he said. How are we going to deal with this situation? You have something that is precious to me, and if anything were to happen to it, I would be pissed off. Massively so. Azumi was slightly surprised that Naruto was talking to the Hawk so calmly in a situation like this. Well, he wasn't the one for emotional outburst. Still, he shouldn't be acting as if everything was normal. She was scared here, and there was every chance that the man behind her would kill her. He could do that. Danzo was a cold bastard who just didn't care. Azumi didn't want to die. She wanted to continue living. She wanted to live. She wanted to stay by Naruto's side, take care of it. She wanted to continue caring for him. My path from leaving this village has been blocked. I know I can't leave this village. Talk to your father to allow me to leave this village in peace. You can call it an exile, Danzo said. Why would I do that now? Tori, Danzo called. The agent being called handed Danzo a sword, and without a second of thought, the Warhawk stabbed Azumi from behind with the sword. You don't have much time to fool around, the man said as he coldly pulled back the sword from Azumi. The redhead Uzumaki woman fell onto her knees, eyes wide, clutching her gut to get hold of the pain and to try to stop the bleeding. She was shocked, her mind was fuzzy, and couldn't decide on what to do. Had Danzo just stabbed her in the back? It was a life-threatening stab that could end her life. What about Naruto? Azumi looked up. The clan head had his eyes fully opened. They were much colder than usual. She would have flinched just looking into them, but she did not. She stared into those hypnotic eyes for what seemed to be eternity. Call your father here so that he can officially exile us, but we will be keeping her as insurance, Danzo said as he threw a three-pronged kunai at Naruto. The Uzumaki clan head didn't even ask where the man got the kunai, he merely grabbed it before throwing it down. Minato appeared within a second. He didn't need anyone to explain anything for him to understand the situation. Danzo wants to be exiled, Naruto said to his father. Minato frowned. He could flash towards Azumi and take her away, leaving Danzo without any ammunition to use. Naruto would certainly go on a rampage afterwards. If he just called Anbu, he didn't know if Azumi would survive. Naruto wouldn't be happy with that. He didn't even know if Danzo had any traps laid up for him. The man had to know that taking Azumi from him was very possible, so he had to have something prepared. Only on one condition, Minato said in a serious tone. Danzo thought about it for a moment before responding. What? Take Naruto instead, the Yondaime Hokage said. Azumi needs to get treatment, but you can take Naruto. I assure you, no one will pursue you. You are being officially exiled after all. But if you try to leave with Azumi, I'm not sure there will be much I can do because we don't know if she will even survive. Although surprised, Danzo didn't allow it to show. You know, I still care about Konoha, the War Hawk said. You won't do anything to Naruto because you wouldn't want Konoha to lose the war. We are at war, that you cannot deny, and Naruto's power cannot be denied as well. He will be of big help in the war, you of all people should know that, Minato responded calmly. Fine, but I will be the one to seal off his chakra. I cannot trust you to do it, Danzo said. Once we have made it to a good place, I will free him. Can I take Azumi away now? Minato said in a hurried tone, already walking towards the War Hawk. He was worried about her health. She was losing blood and Danzo wasn't doing anything to stop it. That just placed her life in danger. Danzo snapped his fingers and one of his agents flashed behind Naruto holding a chain. It was no normal chain, it was marked with chakra suppression seals. Once Naruto was bound, Danzo allowed Minato to take Azumi. The blonde Hokage was gone within a second. He didn't even glance back at Naruto. Minutes later, Minato breathed a huge sigh of relief as he settled down on his chair. He was relieved that Azumi was going to be all right. She was out of harm's way. Rest was needed now, and he could focus on other things now. At least they would be mourning another Uzumaki in the days to come. It would have been tragic if she failed to recover from the wound. Naruto would have certainly been devastated. The Yondaime Hokage wasn't given time to rest as both Drea and Fugaku appeared in the office, both wearing hardened expressions of their faces. The blonde sighed. He wasn't going to get some time to rest. He had just gotten out of council meeting with the subject of a war and he had just taken someone precious to him to a hospital. Couldn't he be allowed some time to rest? What is happening, Minato? Fugaku demanded. I'm hearing that Danzo is leaving the village along with his Ni forces. I thought it was agreed that he would be executed. The Anbu had even stopped his forces from doing anything as the man was acting on orders of the Hokage. Even if he was infuriated, Fugaku did not risk doing anything. Your Anbu are telling me that he is being exiled, is it true? Drea asked with narrowed eyes. Minato nodded. Yes, he said. Danzo was officially exiled from Konoha on my order. He is never to set foot on Konoha or the Land of Fire again. Should he be seen, he will be killed without question. That wasn't particularly true, but Minato felt like starting it that way with those two questioning his decision. He was the Yondaime Hokage. Couldn't they just ask nicely if something had happened? They had known that Naruto's disappearance from the council meeting had something to do with Danzo. Why? Are you becoming so weak? Watch it, Fugaku, Minato warned before the Uchiha clan head could go any further. I'm your friend, but I am still the Yondaime Hokage and you will not say whatever you wish to me simply because you do not understand the decision I have taken. Fugaku opened his mouth to say something, but he shut it as he calmed himself. Explain then. Azumi is currently in the hospital, having been stabbed by Danzo. Her condition was life-threatening, but she should be fine now. Danzo demanded her survival in exchange for exile, and I granted it. Naruto is escorting them as far as they want, Minato explained lightly. Fugaku stared at Minato for a long minute. He could not believe it. Minato had allowed Danzo to strong-arm him. How could he allow himself to be blackmailed like that? Azumi was just one person, and Danzo was a criminal who had to be killed. Besides, this affected Konoha, was one life enough to risk everything? Minato. You do know that if given the chance to live, Danzo can come back to haunt you. You understand that he can cause damage to Konoha, if allowed to move freely? What will you do if this decision ends up costing Konoha many lives when you could have ended it by sacrificing one person? Fugaku shouted. Before the Uchiha clan head could continue, Naruto appeared in a swirl of flames. Fugaku didn't say anything further. It would just be dangerous to continue with that kind of thought with Naruto present. If Naruto heard him saying that Azumi wasn't worth it, their relationship could be considered dead. I thought you left with Danzo. Drea said to the redhead. That was a clone, Naruto responded. I was busy with something else. Drea narrowed his eyes. What? Naruto did not respond. He glanced at Fugaku with his eyes barely visible. We haven't talked since you returned from the dead. But I see you're alive and well. Minato quickly spoke before anything could be said. What are you going to do, Naruto? I have finished my business with the Kyuubi. All contracts are formed. We are keeping an eye on Danzo, so once he makes it out of the borders of the Fire Country, I will leave to confront him. Nothing will remain afterward. What is this Kyuubi business are you talking about? The Kyuubi was separated into two parts, but both are equally powerful enough to fight against any Bajoa. I have bound myself to both of them, and will utilize them as my summons during the war. Naruto said. Where is Azumi? Room 206, Minato said. Naruto was gone without another thought. In case you're wondering, he heard you, the blonde said to Fugaku. I allowed him to leave because Naruto had another plan. The Kyuubi will make an appearance outside of the Fire Nation, and Naruto will be controlling it. Other nations will hear about this, and they will think twice now. But of course there is no turning back. In any case, we remove Danzo and promote a new power in our ranks. Root is no longer needed when we have two Kyuubis. This will be useful in case we are not able to disable the 4 Jinchurikis. The Yondaime Hokage explained lightly. Hospital. This was a new territory for Naruto. He had been in this place, but he had been the one sleeping on the bed with wounds that were at times life-threatening. He had after all abused his body by continuously pushing it to its limits. No one had pushed him farther than his father though. The man's game of tag had at one point made him feel as if he had reached his limit, as if he had hit a wall. Naruto shook his head. This wasn't the time to have such thoughts. Uzumi was lying there unconscious. He had never thought that she would be in this position, but she was here because of Danzo. That man really did know how to push his luck. Well, he was as good as dead with this recent action. Onisama Karin mouthed quietly, staring at her dear brother who was sitting at the chair beside Azumi's bed, head facing down. The brother of hers didn't hear her. It was for the first time Karin was seeing her beloved brother like this. He had always been responsive no matter what. She wasn't yet noticed even though she was so close. It was so unlike her brother who could sense an insect crawling towards his bed even in his sleep. Onisama, Karin called, pulling her brother from behind. Naruto turned around to see who was pulling him. He smiled when he saw his sister. "Oh, Karin," he said. "Sorry, I didn't see you there," he said, his voice a little subdued. Karin stood beside her brother and stared at Azumi's sleeping body for a long minute, with her expression slightly masked with sadness. The sadness did not reflect on tone as she addressed her brother. "Is Uzumi going to be alright?" Naruto nodded. "Yes," he said. "She should be up and running tomorrow." "If she is going to be alright, why are you sad, Oni-sama?" Naruto tilted his head to the side as the question he classed as strange. Was he sad? There was nothing in his face that suggested he was sad, unless he just couldn't see it. Did he really feel sad about this? Naruto shook his head. He would know if he was sad. His younger sister could not tell of emotions he could not explain. "What makes you say that, dear?" "It is just a feeling," Karin said. "Are you not?" Naruto was silent for about a minute. He wasn't really thinking about the answer. He was just pausing for effect. "Your brother might be just disappointed at his inability to avoid this danger. If I had been strong enough alert, I would have protected her. For everything that she has done for me, I should have been able to protect her, but I failed." Karin was silent, simply because she didn't know what to say. Her brother was open with her, as she was open with him. "You'll protect her next time, Oni-sama," she said firmly. "Say, does Oni-sama like Uzumi?" Naruto blinked at the blunt question from his younger sister. It managed to put a smile on his face. "I don't know, Rin," the redhead said. "I don't know," he repeated. "But she is a valuable person to your brother, and I would be sad if something were to happen to her." "Oh, you were right, I am sad." Karin turned to face her brother for a moment. She moved closer and climbed onto his lap. "Can we stay here for a little while longer? I want to be here when she wakes up." This meant he had to cancel his meeting his May. He would see her tomorrow. Sure. Why not? The following day, May stared at Naruto for a long minute before speaking. "I heard what happened," she said. "I didn't think this village had this kind of a problem. In any case, I wish Uzumi a speedy recovery." "It became a problem because the people who had the power to stop it allowed it to become a problem," Naruto responded calmly. "Well, that was our only problem anyway. Konoha has written of a menace that corrupted the village's name. As long as that man was within this village, an idealist like my father would have never reached his dream without him trying to screw it," the redhead said. A strong language from the redhead. It was something else. He was still as calm as usual though, but not acting up to his history. Change was possible to everyone who gave himself or herself to it, apparently. "I have to leave the Konoha by tonight. I should have left yesterday, but your father offered to shorten our distance. It also will be for safety measures given that Konoha has enemies seeking to do harm to the village," the Godame Hokage said. "Even so, I am willing to push our talk for another day. You have things to deal with." Naruto's eyes opened halfway as he stared at the woman before him. "You're a gentle soul," the redhead said. May smiled. "What makes you say that?" She wouldn't go as far as to say she was a gentle person. She was kind. She has been accused of that before, and she has accepted the charge with both hands because that was who she was. Still, being kind and gentle. Wasn't it the same thing? "I know a couple of things about you," Naruto said. "Why do you think you were allowed to take a tour in my compound? None of the clan heads in this village have been given that privilege." The redhead said, "In any case, you should not concern yourself about me. Let us discuss this thing. My father says you wanted to talk to me about how we will do things." May nodded. "I have yet to officially sign on anything," the Godame Mizukage said. "But apparently you trust me. True, we have talked before, and made a business agreement with regards to your project in Uzu. But I want to say you won't be disappointed in trusting me. I will sign the deal with your father, but we will not talk about marriage. I want to know you." Naruto tilted his head to the side. "I thought this was going to be a sham of a marriage." "Yes," May said, she smiled a bit weakly. "But I want more to life. You and I are going to be stuck together for a long time, if you continue with your business in Uzu. I want to understand the man I will be dealing with. I don't have any hopes of developing anything real with you, but I'd like to know you. Who knows, maybe we'll even have some fun along the way," the woman added with a sly smile. "Oh," he said with a raised brow. "That tone of yours, what kind of fun are you suggesting, Mizukage?" May continued smiling. "Who knows? You're the one who used to walk around in this village terrorizing women at night. You have an impressive CV when it comes to women." Naruto found something to smile about as he shook his head. He stared at the woman for a long minute before his eyes closed. "People tend to think that when I close my eyes talking to them, I'm lying, but that isn't quite true. It isn't even that I'm hiding something, perhaps in the past, but now it has only become a habit as I have better control over my emotions and facial expressions. To get back to the subject at hand, I don't think I can deliver on that kind of fun. You see, Uzumaki Naruto doesn't do anything for fun. My life isn't normal. I only have one friend in this village, and when we talk, it is always important matters. I'm trying to clean my image to be a little respectable to suit my position as clan head." May nodded at Naruto's explanation, "But still I'm curious. I really wish to see that side of you. You seemed to have it in you when you first came to me. You'll need to get me drunk to see that side." "I don't promise to keep my hands off you if you do that though," Naruto said, with only his left eye halfway opened. The smile on Mai's lips didn't disappear as she asked, "Why don't you show this side of yourself a bit more often? From what I have heard, you're almost always serious, unless your sister is around." Naruto tilted his head to the side as he dived into the back of his head. "Maybe it isn't me. Before changes came, I was a lively, like my sister. Perhaps it could be a little easy. But I have experienced many things in my life. Sometimes I have even asked myself if I was mentally all right. There has just been a lot within, and remarkably, I don't actually deal with it. I choose to ignore it." "Why?" Naruto smiled. "Well, that is my secret, May. You'd have to hypnotize me to tell you something like that." "Well, that is if he knew the answer to the question. How do you hypnotize someone like you?" Naruto raised his index finger, wagging it slightly. "You don't get to have easy answers, May. You said you wanted to know about me. Hang around me, and you'll figure something out. That is fair, right?" May made a look on her face, a pout. "Not fair," she said. "But it does make things interesting." Chapter 21. Minato could not remember the last time he took a walk with Naruto along the streets of the Hidden Leaf. They last did something like that before the redhead went to the academy. After that, his son changed, and it was training after training, and he was consumed with his work at the office. But now that he was doing this, walking with his family, Minato felt content. Kushina was on his left side, Naruto on the right with Karin sitting on his shoulders. This was the Uzumaki family, the Yondaime Hokage's family, the Namikaze family. If you continue smiling like that, you're going to explode, Naruto said to his father as the four were slowly walking towards the hospital to take Izumi, who was to be discharged today. If she was not Uzumaki, she would have stayed in the hospital for about a week or so. It wasn't to say that she was completely healed, they were taking her away. She would recover back at home. They had the means to take care of her anyway. Thinking about it, Naruto got the idea to form their own little hospital in the compound. It would simplify things and ensure that the secrets to their bodies stayed secrets. I just can't help myself, Minato said, with a wide smile. I have not felt so content in a long time. This isn't so bad, Kushina said with a firm nod. We have not been seen in public as a family in a long time. Not that I care for that, but just walking around like this makes it feel as if we are family again. It reminds me of the good days. There were not a lot of family moments these days, perhaps because of the war and Naruto's life as a shinobi as well as clan head. Perhaps she would have kept the position to reduce some responsibilities for him. Naruto was a needed asset to Konoha's military strength, and to add to his responsibility to their troublesome clan, it had to be a lot he was dealing with. Well, he had Izumi and he was doing a better these days. Perhaps it was because he no longer was going on missions almost on a daily basis. Back then, he was shedding blood regularly that did affect him mentally. At a moment like this, Karin behaved. She could allow the adults to talk. She was most happy when it was just her brother. Her parents were lovely people, but they had rules. Her brother didn't have those, he allowed her to do as she pleased. She loved him for that. Mother, have you thought of getting Karin to learn medical ninjutsu? Naruto asked. I'm right here, Oni-sama, the girl reminded her brother by bonking him on his head. Medical ninjutsu isn't something they prioritize in the academy. Again, as Oni-sama has said, the Shinobi Academy barely covers anything useful. Don't take after your brother, Karin, Kushina warned. Naruto looked at his mother. You make it as if I'm a bad example to her mother. Kushina responded by just giving Naruto a look. Well, she does have a point, Minato said softly. Almost everything Karin knows, she was taught at home. Clan children will always be the best of them, unless there's some special cases where the student is a genius. Even those with shinobi parents will always fare better. It has been something he has thought of before. The gap between the academy children was large, but why hasn't he done anything? Minato shook his head. He really needed to do something about it, or children from poor backgrounds will continue to be disadvantaged. It would even be worse with Naruto's academy. That was an education system designed to produce the best, but only the best could afford it. Poor parents could not, unless he decided for Konoha to pay for the students who showed promise. What brought this on Naruto? Minato asked. Karin isn't going to be facing the dangers of being a kunoichi in battles. She might there and there, but she will be focused on our clan. When my project grows, she will stand to inherit it all. She will have to get involved in it, Naruto said. Medical ninjutsu is something that we lack. We have always relied on our special chakra. I think we should introduce it to the clan. Minato appeared to think about it for a moment before turning to Kushina. What do you think? The decision will fall to Karin, but it is still a question if she can handle it. Not everyone can master medical ninjutsu. But about introducing it to the clan, I think it is a good idea. The decision still falls on you as the clan head, Kushina responded calmly. She didn't want to rob Karin of the freedom of choice. They had robbed her of the choice to become a full-fledged kunoichi like she wanted, but that one could not be helped. Still, in some cases, they had to allow her to make the decision just to show her that her own future was for her to control. Naruto sighed. They still didn't take the responsibility off his shoulders. Do you think you can do it, Rin? Of course I can. Karin shouted. I am your sister. Naruto smiled. Hiring Tsunade is out of the question. I will get Shizune to teach her, and at the academy. Not all children are capable of becoming fuinjutsu masters. We will try to get them to master. The redhead trailed off when a group of villagers halted them. It was the usual greeting to the family of their cage. Naruto watched the interaction mildly before the focus was turned to him. It was a bit interesting being addressed with respect in the village streets. He had been scorned in these streets because of his past behavior. That aside, the other clan heads didn't treat him with respect. Well, that was refreshing, Kushina said with a smile. She could at least call herself a proud mother. It had been an unwanted feeling walking around the village just to hear despicable whisperers about her son. Of course, Naruto had done nothing to quell them, but it hadn't given her a happy picture, but now things were starting to look up. It wasn't embarrassing to be Naruto's mother. Finally, Karin exclaimed happily. You're getting the respect you deserve, Oni-sama. It will only be a matter of time before that Sasuke baby starts respecting you as well, she added firmly. Naruto smiled. You can hold on for that one, he said. Only Itachi is the best before Sasuke's eyes. One day, I will beat that stoic Uchiha, and we will see what he will say. Karin nodded firmly. The rest of the walk was peaceful. They managed to get to the hospital without any incident occurring. Azumi was lying in her bed, eyes dimly opened, but she smiled when she saw family walking up to her, everyone, even Minato. She was happy to see they'd come for her. She wasn't alone. She almost wanted to cry. Uzumaki compound. Naruto halted his training as Jiraiya walked towards the private training ground. He really didn't want to deal with the man. Jiraiya, such a careless entrance into the compound isn't welcomed. You'll get in trouble one day. Just because you're given a pass doesn't mean you can touch everything. The Toad Sage shrugged. I'd like to see anyone try something, the man said. I'm still a Sannin and I can take you on at any day. It would be a little easy now with you being a cripple, the man said. Naruto turned to face the Sannin. He stared for a long minute before responding. Is this your attempt to get a fight out of me? Really? He had never engaged the man in a battle. He didn't like sparring with just anyone. Jiraiya was a powerful shinobi, but fighting him would make him take things seriously, and when he was doing things for real, he did not guarantee that the man would be in one piece if he ends up losing. Naruto fought to win. If victory was not within his grasp, he fought for a draw, but never for a defeat. Of course, he normally refused to engage in a battle he didn't know he could win. It was always best to be on the safe side. Maybe, Jiraiya said. Want to try me? Naruto shook his head. No, he said. It is for your own good that I do not. What do you want? Naruto sat down after asking the question. The man must have come here for something. He could not have come here just to provoke a fight. If that was the case, he would make sure the man's pass into the compound was forfeited. Jiraiya stepped closer to Naruto before speaking. I want to understand what you have done with the Kyuubi. Last time I checked, you had offered to be the Jinchuriki even though your father stated that you had no desire in doing so. It was something else. Naruto had refused to accept the Toad contract, but now had made a contract with the Kyuubi. The redhead insisted on fighting with his own strength, not with anyone's. Aside from that, the beast was dangerous. There had to be something did to get it to cooperate. Doing things like this meant that the Bajoa had a chance to escape. There was no guarantee that it would not attack Naruto once he summons it. If something like that were to happen, all hell would certainly break loose. I haven't done anything, Naruto said. There are two halves because it was a lot easier to seal away. Admittedly, even we could not hope to keep hold of a Bajoa that powerful if it was not sealed within a person. Separating it made it possible for us to seal it away without any risk of it breaking free. Jiraiya stared. I'm sure there is another reason for that, he said. But even if he does try to get that detail out of the redhead, he would not succeed. Trying was just a waste of time and effort, unless he had nothing better to do. Why form a contract? Why did you form a contract with the Toads? Jiraiya blinked before shaking his head. Well, I guess this works well for Konoha. I'm still curious though. If it is a contract, someone else can sign it. As long as they can handle it. The Kyuubi will be a friend of the Uzumaki for generations to come unless something disastrous occurs. This contract I created will be passed down to clan heads. Of course, since there were two pieces we might need two summoners. But then summoning a powerful Bajoa as the Kyuubi requires large amounts of chakra. I'm talking about just one. Summoning two pieces at once would drain a normal person's chakra. Luckily, I'm not normal. Perhaps I would not have done this if I had not learned that there are limits to what I can do. I resent saying that, but it is reality. Certain things I have learned have made me realize that if I am to be victorious, I will need all the power I can get. Drea became thoughtful for a few moments before asking. Does it have anything to do with what you learned from Kabuto? You got something out of him before sending over to Inoichi. There was no doubt in his tone. We have the Sharingan and its freakish abilities. You have not seen a perfect Susanoo. And then there is the Rinnegan. I know a little about the Jujutsu, but it is another ridiculous piece that can do miracles, Naruto said, earning a narrowed look from Drea. Where did you get this? Who has the Rinnegan? The man demanded from the redhead. The last person he had known to possess those special eyes was Nagato. But as far as he was concerned, Nagato was dead. There couldn't be anyone with the Jujutsu. Those eyes didn't just appear out of nowhere. I don't like that tone, Naruto said calmly, but more to himself than to the Sannin. Apparently, the leader of the Akatsuki has them. You know that Orochimaru was once a member of the group. The snake has seen them. Not much about their power, but they do exist in this age. I have given my father a report into what I know about the Akatsuki. If you have questions, go to him. I will go to him, Drea said. I'm curious, Uegakure has been sending scouts around Uzu, and from the latest report I read, they are planning on sending people to destroy your project. You must know already, and yet you have done nothing, or even said anything. That is my business, and I will handle it as I see fit, Naruto responded. I do know what Onoki is planning, and I will do something about it, but I'm not an impatient child. I will move when the time is right. So far nothing has been done, so I can relax, but when they make a move, I will also make a move. Drea was surprised. Naruto was using his head these days. People could say he wasn't deceptive, but those eyes hid a lot of things. The redhead could read a game. He might not like to play it, but he knew the game. If you need help, just let me know, the Sannin said. Where is the leader of Akatsuki located? I won't tell you, Naruto said. If my intel is correct, that man is freakishly powerful. If it is a choice, I will not fight him. I don't do it. But if I get forced into a battle with him, I would try talking to stall for time, and maybe an opening to escape. That is all I can say. What is next? For Naruto to say something like that in a serious tone, the man had to be powerful, dangerously so. Drea decided against pressing for more details, knowing that Naruto would not tell him. What about Danzo? What about him? How were you able to trick him? And he must be going far now. Why are you still here? That is for me to know, and you to find out. But in that case, do you expect me to send a clone Drea? I mean, Azumi was kidnapped. Do you expect someone as like me to send a clone to deal with the situation? He didn't go further than that. That is enough for today. Can I have my piece now? Drea stood motionless for a long minute before responding. One more thing, the man said in a very serious tone. What? How far did you go with the Mizukage? Uchiha compound. You look as if you're troubled, Itachi said to his father. Fugaku turned to his son for a moment, before going to stare at the empty space ahead of him. There was a lot to think about. War was upon them, and in that war, many people would lose their lives. He didn't even think that he would live past it. He had escaped death once, he would not be able to do it again. Well, at least his clan was alright now, and he could die knowing that the future was bright. It was almost laughable to think that they had even thought of plotting a coup just to gain the power they believed they deserved. Would they have even won it? I'm just thinking deep about the future, and how it might look like, Fugaku said. The way the elemental nations handle things is bound to change after the war. We cannot have war started because of petty reasons. Well, Konoha has truly held back. If it were me, I would have invaded Kumagakure years ago for its actions. Minato had much more patience than him and perhaps a little more of foresight. As things stand now, Konoha was in a much better position to defend itself against the combined forces of Kumo and Iwa. He would admit, Minato had made the right call in holding back from waging war. The decision would save many lives. It should change if we are to step away from the current system, Itachi said in a thoughtful tone. There is no such thing as justice, people are easily influenced by their greed. Shinobi lack morals, and will do anything for the sake of a mission. Petty conflicts bring about this kind of reality we are facing. For a peaceful world, the system has to change. We are shinobi, but our ways invite conflicts and hatred. We are humans, we will always have different feelings and emotions, but how we deal with those emotions is greatly influenced by society. Fugaku had always known that his son loved peace and hated wars. You are speaking like Minato when he just became Hokage, the Uchiha said. Well, I think he does still have those thoughts, and they will be revealed after the war. It will be a good opportunity for him. The war would not prove to be a bad thing after all. Yes, people would die, there would be pain and hatred afterwards, but this world could not move forward without expressing its anger. It seemed as if people wanted to be reminded of the horrors of war. That Tsukikage was acting as if he hasn't lived through the cold reality of war. Perhaps the thought of victory deluded the man into thinking he could escape this time. But wasn't his village the one that grew to hate Minato for fighting in the best way he knew? They had hated the Yondaime Hokage, and they still do. Onoki was the one who called the war to a halt, because of the losses he had suffered, and the thought of many more he would suffer if the war continued. Yet, he was waging war again along with the Reikage. The latter was man Fugaku would not trust to have his back. I've only thought about Kumagakure and Kuno only. If the chance presented itself to grab the bargaining rights for the war, he would no doubt stab Onoki in the back. That would only create more problems, and if things go that path, another war would occur in the future. There was no doubt about that. Itachi nodded to this father's words. He didn't think the Yondaime Hokage would change just because of what he has faced so far. The man was a strong-willed man, despite what some other people choose to believe. What is worrying you, father? The war, Fugaku said. I may have also said something that Naruto doesn't want to hear. From the way he looked at me, I'd say he isn't quite pleased with me. Itachi raised an eyebrow. You have been saying a lot of things that Naruto doesn't want to hear in the past, father. What could be the difference this time? Fugaku was silent for a few moments for Danzo to get exiled. He took Izumi and held her hostage. The decision was that he was going to face execution, but Minato changed things when Danzo played his card. I think Minato made that decision because of Naruto. Danzo is dangerous, and he could plot to get Minato killed after the war, if he is still alive. He could plot to get everyone strong killed just so he can claim the mantle of Hokage. He might even use the Fire Lord. I suggested that taking such a risk just to save one person was not worth it, if the end result could mean that many people would be killed. Itachi didn't offer an immediate result. Do you think I was wrong, Itachi? No, Itachi said calmly. For the greater good there must be sacrifices we are willing to make. But that is the problem with Naruto, he cannot make a sacrifice. There are only a few things he cares about, and he won't sacrifice those things. Above everything, Naruto is selfish. You know that, father. Naruto won't give his right hand away, it meant protecting Konoha. He could be convinced to think he would become a hero should he do something like that, but when it comes to manipulation, he is much more alert. How are you going to handle it then? Fugaku asked. I know what you said about him, but I don't think it would be a good idea to have someone like him as Konoha's leader. Having said that, since you are being prepared to become the clan head, I must warn you about the Uzumaki. Do you know why I made efforts to get the Uzumaki as our ally? The clan doesn't involve itself in village politics, and really doesn't say much in how should be done in the village. Yet, I went as far as placing Naruto in military police force. There has been a saying that the Uzumaki know more about what happens in the leaf because they maintain the barrier around the village. The true Fugaku trailed off when he sensed a presence. Naruto was slowly walking towards him and his son. It was just a coincidence, right? Can I speak with Itachi for just a moment? The redhead asked, standing a small distance away. There wasn't even a greeting, just the request. Itachi didn't wait for his father to say anything, he merely stood up and walked towards the Uzumaki. He stared at him for a few moments before asking, "Is there something we must do?" Naruto shook his head. "I need those funds I requested from you. From those bounties we collected. I'm going to leave Konoha tomorrow to pay some people I have hired. Materials have been delivered. They want to start building the hotels now. I need all the money I can get so that the project doesn't stop midway because of lack of funding." Itachi nodded. "Collect it from the Hokage." "I didn't collect the bounty," the Uchiha said. "Thanks," Naruto said as he turned away from the Uchiha, walking slowly with his hands inside his pockets. Itachi stared until the redhead disappeared from view. He shook his head and walked back to his father. What did he want? The elder Uchiha asked. "Money for his project in Uzu," Itachi said. "You are giving it away?" Fugaku asked with a raised brow. Itachi shook his head. He insisted that I loan it to it. I offered to be a partner as I could make things easy for him, financially at least, but he said no, he would rather owe me than take a partner. Then again, Itachi didn't have any interest in business. "What were you going to tell me?" Fugaku shook his head. "It can wait," he said. "Uzumaki compound." Azumi turned her head as Naruto walked into her room holding a tray with food. She did not blink as she stared at the redhead. Naruto was bringing her food. Uzumaki Naruto, who could not cook decent food that could be eaten by other people. What was happening to this world? Was she perhaps dying? It would explain why he was going this far for her. The Naruto she knew was not the kind-hearted person who would go this far for anyone. This action made him seem normal, but she knew he was anything but normal. This is Uzumaki Naruto after all. "If you keep staring at me like that, I might just fall over," Naruto said before placing the tray on the nightstand. He made himself comfortable on the edge of the bed afterwards and stared at the floor. Azumi didn't face the redhead's back. She turned to the ceiling before speaking in a strangely serious tone. "Nah, Naruto, am I really okay? You can tell me if Danzo poisoned the sword he used to stab me. You can tell me if I am dying." Naruto turned his head, looking amused. "I'm insulted that you think the only reason I'd bring you food is because you're dying," the Uzumaki said. "You have been taking care of me for so long as I can remember. It isn't abnormal that I am willing to do something like this for you after everything you've done for me." Azumi was silent for a few moments before sitting up. "How long will I have to sit here?" "2 more days, Naruto says. You'll probably be up and running by the time I return to the village." "You're leaving?" Naruto nodded. "Yes, I must handle a few things and then Danzo. There are people plotting against Uzu. They managed to do it the last time around, they won't do it again. Not when Uzumaki Naruto is alive." The redhead sighed as he slowly fell back, resting his head on Azumi's lap. His fully opened eyes stared at her. Azumi could not speak of any emotion in those eyes. They were just blank of any, yet his lips spoke of a different feeling. This wasn't really the first time she was in this kind of position with Naruto. She has dressed him, washed him, and sometimes fed him. Yet, this made her slightly uncomfortable. Perhaps it was because of the circumstances that surrounded them. "I have never seen you so nervous before," Naruto said to Azumi. "I'm surprised. I'd thought you were not capable of expressing such an expression. What brought this on?" Azumi shook her head. "Why are you lying on me? I'm not well, you know." Naruto gave a nonchalant shrug before responding. There is no pain where my head is resting, unless you are having some thoughts. Azumi masked her emotions as she stared at the clan head for what seemed to be eternity. She decided it was not best to have allowed Naruto to amuse himself on her expense. Besides, she did not want to think about what he was suggesting she was thinking, at least not when he was present. Karin says you were worried, Azumi said, changing the subject. It was a natural reaction for one to be worried, yet for Naruto, Azumi didn't deem it as natural, and it made her happy knowing that he worried about her, so much that even his younger sister could notice it. Naruto settled in silence as he thought of how he was going to respond to Azumi. Karin has a big mouth, he said. But yes, I was worried. Human life is fragile, a simple thing can kill you. I don't have the power over life and death. The thought of you dying was scary because, really, I would not know how to deal with it. Maybe I would even lose it. You have been by my side since I was younger, I cannot imagine living without you. I'm sorry for not protecting you. Danzo shouldn't have managed to get his hands on you. Azumi smiled. Even Naruto could be honest with his feelings. He was doing it a lot these days, and she assumed even he did not understand everything about his emotions, because he has never given himself time to deal with it. I'm touched that you think that, Azumi said with a warm smile on her lips, her right hand over her chest. The important thing here is that I am alive, and you are here. You don't have to worry about anything. Naruto nodded. Were you able to sort things out with the Mizukage? In a way, yes. I think I might even grow to like her company. She has proven to a sly, delightful woman, Naruto said. We did not discuss anything about the marriage, but it will happen. I never actually thought I would find myself getting married though. If someone had told me a couple of years ago, I would have laughed. Why? Didn't you think of starting your own family? No. That would be too much for me. Besides, I have Karin and you. I would be content with just that. He paused. The only thing that would be lacking would be sex. You can always get drunk and get it. Remember the days women used to throw themselves at you, and you didn't waste time to indulge them. Naruto smiled. I couldn't help myself. I felt as if it would be wrong to deny a girl what she wanted. Well, those are the days of the past. I think I may have had a little too fun. A little too fun? You did not discriminate, Naruto, young and old, you devoured. I am still surprised even to this day that you don't have a kid somewhere in the village. That is something that both Fugaku and Mikoto used to say. I think my father joked about it once. Naruto appeared to think about it for a moment. I could have handled things a lot better. I was a lot better when handling the villagers. My time at military police had taught me that, but I seem to have forgotten the manners, the redhead said. He shook his head. You asked if I never thought of starting my own family, have you? You're a baby that I must take care of, Izumi responded calmly. Admittedly, I have thought about it. And? Azumi shook her head. Nothing, she said. It has just been thoughts. Think about making it a reality to be happy. You always say I should live, you should also live, Naruto said as he got up. Your food is cold. Well, anyway, let me leave you in peace. I won't see you in 2 nights at least. Don't leave the compound, no matter what. I doubt your mother would permit it, Izumi said. It suddenly felt a bit cold with Naruto off her. Her nervousness had disappeared without her even noting it. She had grown back to normality, yet it wasn't that normal, was it? Izumi froze as Naruto leaned closer to her. She felt his lips touch her left cheek. It was a gentle kiss that left her staring in the empty space ahead of her. It may have been one of those kisses he gives Karin, but he had never given her any. Still, something felt off. She wanted to say that he had missed the spot. Couldn't he see her more than just Izumi, his attendant? Was she ever going to be a woman with feelings before him? When Naruto stepped out of the room, he found his mother standing outside, her hands folded across her chest. That was out of character for you. Not that I'm a disappointed. But, yes, I may have had something to drink, Naruto said, walking away from his mother. But it had no influence on my behavior. Azumi is an important part of my life. You should know that, mother. Kushina shook her head. I will handle clan matters in your absence. I'm sure you're going to take more than 2 days. He had to deal with Danzo, and then there was the Uzu matter. It wasn't something that he could solve in just a day. Don't go to Kiri. Come back home after you finish your business. Your father told me the Mizukage had good things to say about you. Naruto turned to face his mother with a raised eyebrow. I'm not a child, mother. You are, and if you go to Kiri, you might misbehave, Kushina said firmly. She had come to know her son, and what Drea said about the Mizukage didn't make her feel comfortable in allowing Naruto to be alone with the woman. Naruto just shook his head and walked away without saying another word. Kushina sighed and walked into Azumi's room. She smiled softly at the woman. A pure woman whom she loved dearly. Naruto is unfair, isn't he? Leaving you alone while you're in this condition, the Uzumaki said as she walked towards the Azumi. Well, I guess it can't be helped. He does take his duties seriously, Azumi said softly. Too seriously, Kushina said with a nod. How long are you going to stay silent, dear? If Naruto loves you, he might not even know it. It took Karin for him to realize he was saddened by your situation. If you do, you have to do something because waiting for him won't do you any favors, Kushina said in a calm, yet firm tone. Azumi, you're precious to him, don't be afraid. That fear will only stop you from enjoying your life. Outskirts of Konoha. Naruto came to an abrupt halt as he landed on the ground, leaving the trees. Kakashi, the redhead said as the famed Jonin landed behind him. Why are you following me? Sensei asked me to do it, Kakashi said. He said you might not be in a good mood with everything happening, and I had to be there just to make sure you don't overdo things. I was also bored. Naruto stared into the sky for a long minute. He wanted to be alone, but it didn't hurt to have a companion. At least with someone close, he won't have to focus on the demons inside of him telling him that he should slaughter Danzo and his entire forces. Well, maybe that was just the thought inside of him brought by his displeasure in the man. I want to cross the borders of the Fire Nation by evening. If you're slow, you will fall behind. If you get tired, you will fall behind, and I still won't wait for you. There will be no breaks, rest will only come after we have reached sea, Naruto said to masked Jonin. Kakashi actually had to consider it for a moment. Those were some terms that would prove to be difficult, and as someone who has done a mission with the Uzumaki, he knew things would proceed as he had said. He wasn't needed, and he would be left behind if he did not move as fast as the redhead. It would prove to be difficult. Naruto was freakishly fast. Well, he was still sharing Gan no Kakashi. He could keep up with the pace. Why do we have to run like that as if we are chasing or running away from something? Kakashi asked. He would understand if the redhead was saying that they were running after Danzo, but that didn't appear to be the case. Maybe he was wrong. There is a ship that will be entering sea at a certain time, and I will have to catch it. I want to be at Uzu by tomorrow, Naruto responded. That reminds me, if you fall behind, far behind, the ship might leave you behind. Now, let us, Kakashi. Kakashi pulled his serious mask as Naruto jumped back into the trees. The copy nin followed swiftly, keeping his thoughts to himself. It would be best just to follow and avoid talking. He did use energy when trying to strike conversation. The person in front of him was a stamina freak, and could go on talking as loudly he wants. However, Naruto was not that kind of a person. It seemed like a full day of running. Kakashi had never felt so tired in recent years. True to his word, Naruto had not stopped. Not even to take a leak, he had just kept running. Kakashi had tried to negotiate a small break, but Naruto had not listened to him. He had just kept running and he had been forced to follow, no matter how tired he was. Once they came to a stop, Kakashi fell down on his butt, breathing heavily. His chest felt heavy as he gasped for air, his muscles aching because of the brutal exercise it had been forced to endure. The Jonin looked at Naruto. He did look winded, but not as much as he was. Guy would have followed without any troubles, Naruto commented. If you gave enough time to train your body you wouldn't look so pathetic. Well, I guess when you are already famous you can be forgiven for forgetting about training. Kakashi stared at the redhead for a long minute. He first caught his breath before responding. It's not fair comparing me to Guy. His entire fighting style is based on taijutsu. Endurance is his speciality. He would even beat you in an endurance fight. I did not dispute that, Naruto said with a wave of his hand. My body is all patched up. The redhead shook his head. Come on, let us go, they should be waiting for us by now. Kakashi sighed as he stood up. Well, they did appear to be close to sea. He could feel the cold air, especially now that night was knocking. Aren't you afraid of being attacked? With so much energy they have spent so far, defending themselves against people armed to kill them would prove to be a daunting task, even for them. This route is secure, Naruto said. So, there is no need to worry. Kakashi nodded. It was to be expected of the redhead. The two traveled in silence for about 25 minutes before reaching what seemed to be a harbor. There were up to 4 large ships resting in the shores. This was new to Kakashi. As far as he was concerned, there was no harbor around this part because there was no village nearby. The harbor he knew was at the Land of Waves. This is new, Kakashi said. It is new. I had this place built after hiring 2 ships from Kiri and 2 others from another company in Kiri. This was much easier to transport my goods into Uzu without having troubles of paying duties and other things, Naruto said. You could afford this? No, Kiri gave me 2 for free and the other 2 I hired on loans, Naruto said. Soon enough the Fire Lord will be calling me and some other ships might be coming here. Well, I wouldn't have any problems with it. It would attract people to Uzu. Kakashi shook his head. If the daimyo was going to be calling, it would be either because Naruto didn't discuss this with the man or he did, but not everything was finalized, but he still went on ahead with his plans. Before the silver-haired Jonin could say anything a man called. Naruto-sama over here. The man shouted in one of the ships. Naruto walked towards the ship, leaving Kakashi to play catch-up. They didn't waste time in boarding the ship, and once inside, the ship started moving as with the another one. Kakashi noted that there were a lot of people inside the ship. I thought we would end up leaving without you, the man who had called Naruto said as he walked up to the redhead. I was a little slow in leaving Konoha, Naruto said to the man. This is quite the crew you have here, Shaman-san. Are they all your people? Yes, but some were picked up along the way. You said you wanted things to be done in a speedy space, so I decided to get all the manpower I could get, the man then smiled as he ended. But of course the price has to go up a little. Whether Naruto heard it or not was another story as the redhead just looked away. This is Kakashi, Itachi Kakashi. The Uzumaki said to Shaman. Kakashi, this is the man who will be responsible for managing the project. Well, it is actually his company that I have contracted to build the hotels for me. Kakashi looked outside the ship into the sea. How long has it been since he last sailed? It was something else, watching the sunset, while being comforted by the natural air that breathed above the face of the sea. For a moment, the Jonin felt content as the atmosphere washed all his tiredness away. Coming here hadn't been the wrong decision after all. The ship traveled for some distance, with Kakashi enjoying his peace. Naruto was sitting on deck, on a large chair with a scroll on his hands. There were a couple on his lap. Ever working tirelessly? Kakashi thought with a shake of his head. The Jonin pulled a chair beside the redhead and settled down before speaking. Don't you think you work your mind too much? Naruto looked up from his scroll, his eyes facing the Jonin on his left. He went back to his scroll before responding. The mind will rest when I sleep. It hasn't complained about being overused, so there are no worries. Since when did a person's mind start speaking to say that it was tired? The only thing that would happen is that one would just fall down due to fatigue. That would be the mind saying it was tired, and the body as well. It was going to happen to Naruto one day. As far as he knew, Naruto hardly rested. What are you looking into? There is a woman in the land of demons who can predict your death. Naruto said. It was an interesting ability that none of the most powerful Dojutsus could do. He didn't know much about the Rinnegan, but it had to be powerful. The eyes that were once wielded by the man known as the Sage of Six Paths had to be much more powerful than the Sharingan, even an eternal Mangekyo. Well, he would need to look it into to be confident. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at hearing this. What are you planning? You're not that afraid death, are you? Not at all, Naruto said with an air of nonchalance. My reasons are my own. I must see her before I return to Konoha. I'd like to keep someone like that close. Of course there won't be any use of forceful means. The redhead closed his scroll and looked into the sky. We should reach Uzu in about an hour. If Kakashi thought Naruto was going to rest after saying those words, he was mistaken. The redhead took another scroll and began going through it. For someone who had once become infamous for his ignorance, the Uzumaki really did work hard. Was there anyone who worked as hard as he did? Perhaps only Guy could take the honors. Kakashi didn't disturb the redhead. He was not here to be a nuisance, but just tagging alone for other reasons. It was best he did not force the Uzumaki to drift of his schedule. As far as he could tell, everything was planned. Naruto had planned on spending so much time where and doing what. If he was thinking of going to the land of demons, he would also have to be extra careful because he could find himself staring at enemy eyes. Kakashi breathed in some oxygen before closing his eyes to relax. He could take a nice nap to rest his body and mind. It had been a long day after all, and tomorrow was promising to hold much more troubling things. About an hour later, Kakashi could not help but stare at the sight before him. The ruins of Uzu lay bare for all to see. Nothing had been touched, but there were bright lights all around, making one see the ruins as if it were clear as day. It's beautiful, isn't it? Shaman said to Kakashi, who was standing still. Naruto was already ahead. There won't be much to change in these ruins. Maybe 2 or 3 buildings will be rebuilt, but the other buildings will not be rebuilt. The hotels we are going to be built are on the other side of the village near the sea. Why aren't you going to remove anything? The man shrugged. When you work with that man, you don't ask too many questions. He has his reasons, and we are paid to do the work he has planned. He has started building his own house though. Kakashi raised an eyebrow in curiosity after hearing that. Naruto was building his own house here. He wasn't planning on leaving Konoha, was he? Kakashi shook his head. There was no reason for Naruto to leave. He told himself it was reasonable that he would build a house here given that his business would be located here. Not to mention this was his ancestral home. This was just a good place to relax, forgetting the shinobi matters. The atmosphere here was certainly refreshing. It wasn't as thick as it was often as inland. Everything here just felt natural, but there was nothing natural with the man plotting all these, was there? Everyone else took a different direction from Naruto. It was apparent that there were other people aside from the ones they came with in the island. It looked as if there was going to be a party even. How he wished he could join that, but he was with Naruto. The redhead was not the kind of person, was he? The former Anmu followed Naruto silently. The building appeared to be a ruin, but in the inside, it was furnished. It wasn't a house, that was for certain. It seemed like an office. Naruto was sitting behind a large desk, scrolls with housing plans and a blank look on the redhead's face. Offices? Kakashi asked. Naruto nodded. Hotels have to be managed, as well as the farms. I'm also thinking of getting into the shipping business. The holding company that will be responsible for everything should be headquartered here. Of course, once everything is set, I will have the trouble of getting the right people to manage everything. Kakashi looked at the plans on the desk, studied them for a moment before responding. You have thought out things. Did you plan these? Of course not, Naruto said. There are suitable for this kind of things. I am a shinobi, I know best when it comes to dealing with ninjutsu and killing people. Business isn't something I'm good at. I must admit, I'm not happy with the thought of allowing someone to manage my things. If I was truly good, I would certainly choose to manage all. Right now, I'm just studying all these to understand it all. The redhead looked up at Kakashi. You should go to rest. We have a long day tomorrow. Early morning, we have to leave. You will have finished your business by then. Naruto nodded. I'll meditate to calm my mind a bit later, and my clones will be doing the paperwork. Early morning, we will see the progress being made on the farm. After which, we will disappear to meet with Danzo. I'm sure he is waiting for me already. Minato had warned him that Naruto was possibly going to get into a fight with Danzo, so Kakashi was not surprised. What had surprised him, however, was the fact that the redhead was willing to face Danzo on his own. If there was anything, Naruto would have taken Itachi with him. Naruto always took Itachi when doing things that didn't need just two hands. Why had he come alone then? It could not be because of the QB. Perhaps all was not well. What could have changed then? Even though the two were two different people, they did have an understanding. He would not go as far as to say they had an emotional attachment towards the other. Don't you think you should prioritize that over this? Kakashi said. Danzo would give them a challenge that was going to threaten their very lives. Go to sleep, Kakashi. If the night is still too young for you, there is a party in the camp. There is a shortage of women though, Naruto said dismissively. The following morning. Sound country. It is amazing how things change, isn't? Orochimaru said with a grin. He was standing next to Danzo, beside a tree, a large contingent of root anbu silently observing the surrounding from the dark shades of the trees. A few years ago, you were calling for Sarutobi-sensei to hunt me down as I was too dangerous to live, but I think now he is saying the same thing about you. Orochimaru couldn't help but laugh at the irony of this situation. Not to mention the man had come to him for help to hide. He did realize that he didn't have any ally in the elemental nations. His true ally Hanzo had been killed in Ame, so Danzo was all alone now with just him to cover for the man. Of course, his help came with conditions. Well, it has always been the case. He hadn't held a grudge against the man for wishing he died. They have been working together over the past years after all. Everything at a price, nothing was for free. He was not standing here on free service out of pity for his old comrade en route, he was going to get paid. Danzo really wished he could wipe that grin off Orochimaru's face, but the truth was that he did need the snake Sannin. Well, he just needed to get over this challenge first before doing anything. It wasn't a sin to plan other things either way. I will need your forces to invade Tsunagakure. It is the easy target at this stage and Konoha wouldn't feel obligated to send help should something happen. Kiri is a different matter since both Minato and Naruto have interests there, Danzo said. With the war, Konoha cannot afford to look elsewhere. If it does so, both Kumo and Iwagakure might take advantage of the situation. If he manages to get his hands on Tsunagakure, he could go on to plot about conquering other nations. There was no shame in that, and it was a dream that he could achieve. At this point, he didn't care if Konoha wins or loses the war. Anyway, would do for him. Always such a big dreamer, Danzo, Orochimaru said. He then laughed. A pity you had to run away with your tail between your legs when you were threatened. It must have been painful for you to escape from the village you're so hooked on protecting and ruling. Orochimaru appeared to be looking for something from him, but Danzo wasn't going to give it. He wasn't the child to fall for such games. How long are you going to continue with this game of yours? We need to discuss important things. Let me think. Orochimaru took a thoughtful look on his face, but he didn't get to respond as the guest finally arrived. Naruto landed a distance away from the two, still surrounded by the root anbu. I'm disappointed, Danzo, Orochimaru said with a slight frown on his lips. I was expecting Itachi to be here, but he isn't. What is the meaning of this? I have no interest in that one. The Sannin said of Kakashi. There has been a change of plans, it seems, Danzo said, not the least worried. Kakashi felt as if he had just walked into a trap. He had known the area was surrounded by root Anbu, but Naruto had said not to mind them because he had expected them to be present. They hadn't done anything to attack or stop their advance, but now he could feel the countless stares trying to wear him down. Orochimaru, Naruto started calmly. I would prefer not to fight you as well. Really, if you decide to fight, I would leave this place, the redhead as if leaving would be that simple. Well, it was good that he was not planning to fight the two. My participation depends on what I gain, Orochimaru said with a shrug. So far, Danzo wasn't giving anything that was tempting him. There was not even Itachi available here. Not everyone in the Uzumaki clan went to Konoha after the invasion. Some families wanted to try other lands in search for peace. I know you recruited a young Uzumaki into your pack. I would like to have her back, Naruto said to Orochimaru. The snake Sannin laughed. What makes you think that I would be willing to give away a fine test subject? I can assure you that I will make your life a living hell, Naruto said. It was very much possible for him to do that. He could if he wanted. Perhaps in his condition it as not best to pick up a fight with the snake, but he had his ways. He could make his assurance a reality, without even having to lift up a finger. He could only lift it to apply the finishing touches. In response to Naruto's assurance, Orochimaru burst into a fit of laughter. I'm interested in knowing how you go about doing that. Many have tried, and they have all failed. Not even Konoha has been willing to pick a fight with me. I'm a wanted criminal, yet I even have my own village. What makes you, Uzumaki Naruto, think you can do to make my life a living hell? It was already hell, wasn't it? Kakashi wondered what Naruto was playing at. The snake Sannin was one powerful foe, even he would not stand a chance. He had encountered the snake before after all. Naruto was calm as usual, even in this sort of situation. The redhead of the old wouldn't have stood in the position like this. He would have openly admitted that this was too risky for him and fled. Oh wait, he has already admitted that, hasn't he? Orochimaru, true to the Sandaim's words, you are arrogant. Konoha isn't incapable of ending your existence. If you think it has not rallied its troops to murder you is because it is afraid of you, then you are much of a bigger fool than I had first thought, Naruto stated in a firm tone. Konoha has just not been willing to deal with you because there have been much more pressing matters. You're insignificant for Konoha to focus its powers on you. Do you really think the Hidden Leaf is afraid to wage war against Onigakure? Ridiculous. The way the redhead said it, it was as if he was lashing out at a child who had assumed wrong. It made Orochimaru feel slightly small, but he did not want to think about that. He didn't allow frown to grace his lips, not because the redhead has said some trivial things. Naruto continued. Even now, we have a war, you're not even mentioned in it, because you make no difference. Perhaps to the many you are bullying it is continued horrors, but as a threat to Konoha, you're a minimal and can be neutralized any time the village wishes. You take it as if the leaf has been merely tolerating your existence. That is not the case in this scenario, nevertheless. I want to point out that I know the Akatsuki is looking for you. I can easily make known to them of your hideouts. Not to mention, I can call forth the Kyuubi to destroy everything you have built. Yes, Onigakure, your hideouts in this land in the Fire Nation, they can all disappear if I so wished. Danzo is a wanted man. I'm afraid he is too much of a risk to Konoha to allow to live. We will actively hunt him down until he is dead. To you that creates unwanted heat, and it restricts your movements. You might also get in the crossfire. The redhead paused for a moment and looked at Danzo. It was good that the war hawk had yet to unseal his right hand. He turned to Kakashi and whispered into the man's eye. Use your Mangekyo Sharingan's ability to warp Danzo's right arm away. Kakashi turned to face the redhead with a curious look on his face. How did Naruto know about the ability? He had yet to show it to him and really, he had only used it a couple of times. I will ask questions later, the Jonin said as he uncovered his left eye revealing the Sharingan, which morphed into Mangekyo within a second. Seeing Kakashi's Sharingan, Orochimaru smiled. I didn't know a non-Uchiha could awaken the Mangekyo. The snake Sannin said. Kamui. Kakashi focused on Danzo's right arm. Within a second, a swirling black hole ripped Danzo's hand apart, causing the man to scream as his hand was forcefully pulled from his shoulder. A couple of seconds later, the ability had done its job, and the root Anbu were now visible, some surrounding both Danzo and Orochimaru. Danzo cursed, looking at his right shoulder. He had not thought the redhead would play such a card. Kakashi wasn't even supposed to hear. But with his, he could as well say H was dead. That hand was his ability. Without it, he could not win this fight. Not to mention Orochimaru would be more than willing to abandon him now. He had to make a sacrifice now. The man undid the bandages on his head, revealing another Sharingan implanted on one of his eye sockets. It would have been fun to kill you over and over again, but with Orochimaru here, I cannot afford that. Even if I were to offer him a deal, I doubt he would honor it. He might vanish for a second, but for sure he would be waiting in the wings to stab me in the back. Therefore, I cannot fight you, Danzo, Naruto explained. Orochimaru, Danzo is a real cripple now. Do you wish to continue helping him? That can be fixed after the battle, and there are still a lot of thee around, Orochimaru countered. I thought you'd say something like that, Naruto said before doing a single hand seal. He drew blood before slamming his right hand into the ground. Kochiyos no Jutsu, Kyubi. There was a chilling atmosphere that was accompanied by silence and a large cloud of smoke. The frightening malice in the Kyubi's chakra began to spread around the area, filled with an eerie silence. It took a couple of seconds, but the nine-tailed beast finally took its appearance after the cloud of smoke dispersed. Tension filled the area as the enemy stared at the fearsome beast standing before them. Kurama grinned as he breathed in the fresh air around him. How long has it been since he last saw the outside? Just feeling the wind brush over his fur. It felt so good to be alive. Perhaps this decision wasn't so bad after all. Still, what was stopping him from squashing the redhead in front of him? He just had to raise his paw and slam the redhead to the ground, and he would be free. Still, he was dealing with an Uzumaki. He could not take chances. The redhead had not even explained the terms of the contract they signed. Ah, it feels good to be free, Kurama said in a deep voice that rang around the entire area. Naruto, are these the humans I have to terminate? You summoned for the purpose removing them, didn't you? You can do intimidation on your own without me. Naruto didn't respond to the Bajoa. Perhaps you might say you can deal with this, but how about a second one? Naruto went on to summon another half of the Kyubi. Orochimaru was no longer confident. Even if it was just one Kyubi, he wouldn't have given a thought to fight. The Bajoa would certainly wipe out the root forces within a minute. Facing a second was out of the question. He wouldn't even consider it. This was a serious problem. It was apparent that the Kyubi had been halved. This was much smaller from the beast he last saw, but that didn't mean it was now weaker. Orochimaru was willing to say he respected the power of the strongest Bajoa. He didn't have anything to gain here, he just to disappear with haste. We had a good run, you and I, Danzo, Orochimaru said. But I plan on living for many years, I cannot risk it here. Maybe I will visit you in hell after all, the Sannin said with a laugh before crumbling into sand. One problem solved, Naruto said calmly. He then addressed the Kyubi. Our contract bars any sealing jutsu to work on you. As long as we have this contract, even I cannot seal you. Should you face a difficult situation, you can reverse summon yourself to that pit. Should you be in trouble and refuse to run with your tails in between your legs, well, if you can fit them, I will know when your chakra is reduced, and I will take action. That said, I'm leaving you to deal with this mess. Once you're done, you are to march towards the borders of the land of mushrooms. Once you make it there, disperse. Naruto then turned to Kakashi. Let us move toward the land of demons, Kakashi. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out the other playlist. Hope you would like them too.